Sect by playing badly. Chapter 201 Tug of War Competition. Yi Qiao relied on the photo stone to drive away the sword-seeking Zong and the others without any effort. Without the sword-seeking Zong with the highest force value, only Changfeng Zong remained. "Are you going?" Yi Qiao looked at Qin Huai, who was still chasing and killing him. Qin Huai said coldly, "Leave the soul stone behind. Sword-seeking Sect has already got 5, and there are 5 left. Cheng Fengong is bound to win it. Yi Qing'an is willing to leave only because Jian asking Sect already has it. Otherwise, no one would be able to regress because of a picture stone." The soul stone was snatched by Mingshuan, and the 2 weapon cultivators of Cheng Fengong obviously couldn't play against Mingshuan. The young man's figure was treacherous, and it was easier to use the formation in such a complex terrain. He let out a sigh, smiled and snapped his fingers, and instantly sent several weapon repairers away 10 meters away. The sword cultivator of Cheng Fengong tried to chase after him. Mingshuan hugged him tightly, puffed up his face, and acted shamelessly, "I won't give it. You can kill me." The sword cultivators of Cheng Fengong were more ruthless than the other. Seeing this, they squinted their eyes and struck down with the sword shadow. If they couldn't avoid it, they would probably be torn apart. Yi Qiao was too far away from Mingshuan, and this distance was completely out of reach. She kicked Qin Huai away, and suddenly pulled Miao Miao's thin sleeve hanging from her wrist, which was hiding behind, threw it over, wrapped it around Mingshuan's waist and pulled her back. Duan Hengdao. He also took out a rope, wrapped it around Mingshuan's waist and pulled it towards Cheng Fengong. This weird scene made the scene quiet for a moment. "Are you trying to tear him apart?" The sword seeker who hadn't completely evacuated on the other side couldn't help interrupting this weird scene. "Although he's cheap, he's not guilty of death." The cheap Mingshuan. Fortunately, neither side acted rashly, so as not to really tear people apart. This gave Mingshuan room to maneuver, and he quickly pasted a shrinking talisman. Mingshuan fled after shrinking, and only the soul stone was entangled by the water sleeve and the rope. "Whoever snatches a bag of soul stones will get it. Yi Qiao, why are you standing there? Pull it out." Qi Yu outside the court chose to help Yi Qiao in the tug of war without hesitation. "You can't do this thing, I have a better one." Qi Yu threw out the prepared golden chain and entangled the soul stone. There are quite a lot of good things from the direct line of the tool repair family. The self-winding chain, the floating silk ribbon, the golden rope, and various magic tools showed their faces. Otherwise, there is money in appliance repair. Duan Hengdao cursed in a low voice, "You Qi family, what are you doing for them?" Qi Yu. It feels quite fun. In the past, she thought that this group of in-person competitions was very interesting, with various operations going on and on. It was a good show. Now that they can get involved at close range, why can't they get involved? Qi Lv chose to help Yi Qiao after hesitating on both sides. The Changming sect was uneven, so it was obvious that they couldn't grab the Changfeng sect. If all the soul stones were taken away by the Changfeng sect, they would come in vain. Then I can only choose to help Chang Mingzong. Su Juo, who was forced to participate in the tug of war, vomited. "He is a talisman, why should he be treated like this?" It was a good snatching battle, but in the end it turned into a tug of war. Seeing the sects on both sides start a contest between you and me, Yi Qing'an was silent for a few seconds, put his sword back into its sheath expressionlessly, a little numb to this kind of scene. "Let's go." Zhu Yu nodded, "Okay. Sure enough, it's right to play less with Chang Mingzong, and mental retardation is easy to be infected after being with them for a long time." The suzerain said to strive for half a year to break the nascent soul stage. The standard is quite high, but if it is in the ghost world, as long as you are willing to take risks during the half-year nascent soul stage, then it is not impossible. Zhu Yu put his hands behind his back. We can go to the Ghost King Tower to practice. Scavenge the resources of the Ghost World first, and then go to the Ghost King Tower. Yi Qing'an pondered for a moment. He is leading the team this time. For the safety of his juniors and sisters, it is better not to trespass in a place like the Ghost King Tower. Ellipsis. Zhu Shi really couldn't stand this kind of tug-of-war competition. Qin Huai cut the chain with a straight sword with a blank face. King Feng's sword cut. Zhu Shi really couldn't stand this kind of tug-of-war competition. Qin Huai cut the chain with a straight sword with a blank face. King Feng's sword cut the iron like mud. After cutting the chain, Yi Qiao and Qin Huai cut the golden rope at the same time. Two spiritual swords. Unless they are equal spiritual weapons, there is really no magical weapon that can cut continuously. His expression was a little cold. Yi Qiao. What responded to him was Yi Qiao's merciless kick, which hit the door in the face. Qin Huai's head was kicked up, and at the same time, the shuriken was cut off, aiming at Yi Qiao's left shoulder. Can't avoid it at all. Yi Qiao was resolutely preparing to withdraw. He didn't want to fight. Qin Huai just wanted to beat Yi Qiao up now, which exposed too many of his flaws. In a fight, the comparison is who has a stable mind. When Yi Qiao was exchanging moves with him, a sword wind passed by without any murderous intent. Qin Huai curled his lips coolly, just about to laugh at her sword skills, but Yi Qiao snapped his fingers. It was loose. Qin Huai showed a bit of ferocity. I want to die. The mentality is completely broken. On the other side, accompanied by the passage of ropes and iron chains, the soul stone fell to the ground and hid behind the alchemy furnace. Miao Miao, who saw the timing, caught the soul stone steadily, and then scrambled and crawled into the alchemy furnace, curled up inside. There is quite a kind of calmness in which you are strong and you are strong, and I am standing still. Duan Hengdao, who came one step later. Are you really the master of Dan Furnace? But strictly speaking, the alchemy furnace is more useful than home. Without Miao Miao's order, Duan Hengdao couldn't open the alchemy furnace even if he smashed all the magic weapons in his hand. Qin Huai and a mad dog kept chasing Yi Qiao. Yi Qiao made a wrong step. The light green field glowed. Seeing that she was about to open the field, Shen Ziwei hurriedly stopped Qin Huai. Forget it, big brother. Before you figure out the name and system of Yi Qiao's domain, fighting her domain is not worth the loss. Even Yi Qing'an didn't dare to be arrogant to the point of head-on, so it's better to be calm. Let's look elsewhere. Duan Hengdao took a deep breath, and had to recognize the reality that he couldn't grab it. Even if he was stronger than him, he still couldn't grab it. Then struggle with a hammer. Anyway, is this the only place in the ghost world that has soul stones? Qin Huai stared at Yi Qiao for a few seconds, pursed his lips, managed to regain his sanity, and uttered a word: withdraw. Afraid that Cheng Fengong would kill the carbine again, Ming Shun used his spiritual sense to probe several times, and after confirming that they had left, he let Miao Miao get out of the pill furnace. Ellipsis. Su Juo is not here. Yun Qiu rebelled against the sect, and the Yuqing sect has only 3 personal heirs left. The high-level leaders of the 5 sects even asked us to come to the ghost world. I'm afraid they have some opinions on us. After Zhai Chen came back from Tanlu, he said, there is a fight on the other side. I guess there may be a sect bumping into each other. Let's go around it. Su Juo is okay. Song Hansheng looked at the movement of the fight not far away, and said in a calm tone, he is still useful, better than a dog. Yun Qiu is the same with her or without her. I hope Master can bring back a reliable personal biography next time. Yun Qiu rebelled against the sect. Su Juo was not around, and there were only 3 Yuqing sects. No matter how you look at it, they were weak in strength. At this time, they had to find the equally weak Bishui sect to cooperate. Zhai Chen. He shook his head. Chang Mingzong is now left with 2 people, and they're 3 personal descendants just like us. If we have to find someone to cooperate with, why not find a stronger Chang Mingzong? Song Hansheng lowered his eyes and pondered. You can think of other sects you can think of. The Changming sect is undoubtedly in demand. Song Hansheng didn't think he could beat the other sects, so he could only settle for the next best thing and go to the group of pill cultivators of the Bishui sect. With the elixir in the ghost world, the situation will be much better. Chevron _ left previous home index next chevron _ right. Tap the screen to use advanced tools tip. You can use left and right keyboard keys to browse between chapters. The whole sect by playing badly. Chapter 202 Go to a quiet place. Yi Qiao and the others got the soul stones, and the 2 brothers and sisters of the Qi family could only form a team with Chang Mingzong. They also came for the soul stones. And Su Juo got 1. Several people found a safe place to refine and absorb the soul stone. Qi Lu played with the hard-won soul stone and blinked. No wonder so many monks are not afraid of death and come to the ghost world. There are really many good things. Mingxuan snorted. The realm of self-cultivation is almost completely divided up by the monks. Although the ghost realm is more risky, there are always people who are not afraid of death. Soul stones can be used to refine spiritual consciousness, and can also be used to refine weapons. As for how much one can absorb, it all depends on one's understanding. Are you going to meet up with other pro-in-laws tomorrow? Qi Lu rubbed his chin, seeing that they couldn't sit still at all. A word of advice to you: when you come to the ghost world, don't cause trouble, just look for opportunities in the periphery. Well, there is no system in the ghost world. Don't try to provoke those powerful ghost cultivators. There are many desperados in the ghost world. For example, those who have been ordered to kill by the 5 sects will choose to go to the ghost world when they have nowhere to go. In other words, those monks who were exterminated by the 5 sects may hate you for this. Qi Lu felt sorry for this group of pro-sectors from the bottom of his heart. Although he had more resources than ordinary monks, the risks were also quite high. Whether it was the demon world or the ghost world, he was always eyeing this group of pro-secrets who hadn't grown up. If it is the 5 groups of the Changming sect, then Qi Lu is not too worried. After all, he has watched the competition for so long and found that this group of people is really good at cooperating. After reuniting with other in-person personalities, it will be high profile. Ming Xuan raised his eyes and thanked him, but we probably won't be able to meet up for the time being. Brother, they can't be contacted for the time being. Yi Qiao shook the unresponsive jade slip, clicked his tongue. It seemed that they were really going to fend for themselves. Qi Lu shrugged, because if the distance is too far, the communication jade slips will be cut off. The ghost world is very strange. They do not belong to the 3 realms, and it will be troublesome to connect the jade slips unless they are relatively close. Yi Qiao realized, this is the same as no signal. Mingxuan crossed his legs, bored. Since there is no class in the ghost world, who is the most powerful? The elders of the 5 sects seem to keep this place secret. Of course it's the Ghost King. Qi Lu was afraid that they would not realize the seriousness of the problem, so he emphasized, it's terrifying. Then, he harvested 4 faces without any waves. Qi Lu tilted his head in doubt. Aren't you afraid? That's the Ghost King. In his opinion, this group of personal descendants are all well-protected talents, and he should be at least surprised when he hears about a creature like the Ghost King. Bah! It's okay. Mingxuan twitched his mouth when he recalled the demon lord who made him kneel in a row. In the past, it might be really scary. After all, the highest level in the secret realm is only the monsters of the nascent soul stage. They are suddenly thrown into the ghost world and have to face the Ghost King. I am afraid that they will definitely be scared. Now, we've seen both the evil god and the devil before. Miao Miao clapped her hands. If the king of ghosts, we don't provoke them. Qi Lu frowned, surprised. He didn't expect them to have this experience. Have you ever seen an evil god? Then how did you come back alive? That evil god is stupid. Ming Xuan's mouth twitched. He didn't really understand what the little junior sister did, but the scene at that time was indeed quite impressive. It first fought with the demon king and was later swallowed by the secret realm, and now it has returned to its seal. I don't know if it will be summoned by its followers again in the future. The evil god itself is an immortal existence, and this is its troublesome part. If it is infected by evil energy, the cultivation world will become a disaster, so don't worry about it if you don't seal it. A group of people chatted one after another, not aware of the continuous extension of the ground, and the shadows under their feet were gradually swallowed by darkness. The ghost world itself is in such a dark situation, and most people will not notice the changes in the shadows under their feet. But Yi Qiao looked at the pitch-black ground. She has seen this trick before. Still familiar. At that time, Xiao Qi dragged her away without anyone noticing. The only difference is that there is no change in the scene in front of me, and there are ghost cultivators and monks walking around from time to time, so it can't be seen that it is a domain at all. Does it look familiar? Yi Qiao approached Ming Xuan. Ming Xuan nodded. It looks familiar. No matter how you look at it, this place looks very similar to Shaoqi Domain. The only difference is that the Shaoqi Domain gives people the feeling that the speed is slowed down and trapped in a world. And this ghostly place is like a maze that can't be escaped no matter how hard you run around, enveloping people quietly. No one would like this kind of uncontrollable situation. The feeling is also very dangerous. Ming Xuan squinted his eyes and had to think of a way to break the barrier of this place. He looked around for a long time and grabbed Qi Lu and Su Juo. Let's go to a quiet place. Su Juo was puzzled. Why? Ming Xuan, do what a man should do. Su Juo thought he was going to fight, but Ming Xuan took the two of them, purposely found a hidden place where no one was around, and poured water here and there. Not only did he water it himself, he also encouraged the other two to join in. Su Juo. Ming Xuan said seriously. Did you really not notice anything? We seem to be enveloped by a huge monster. My suggestion is that we first break its calm and let it show its flaws. Qi Lu thought it made sense after hearing it, but it seems useless. His perverted behavior didn't blow up the guy behind the scenes. Su Juo also pondered. He didn't notice any difference between the scene in front of him and the previous scene. Maybe it's not the domain. Do you think it's wrong? Impossible. Ming Xuan also stopped his unconscious abnormal behavior. This is very similar to Shaoqi's domain. It is completely an advanced version of Shaoqi's domain. Xiao Qi is a little ghost, so similar, there must be some connection. _left previous home index next _right. Tap the screen to use advanced tools. Saved the whole sect by playing badly. Chapter 203 Sick, but not breaking the law. After the three of them came out, they were still wondering whether it was a domain or not, but it turned out that the outside world had changed, and all monks and even ghost cultivators were covered by a large area, and people kept disappearing. It is really disappearing out of thin air. If you look carefully, you will find that there are black ghosts extending continuously on the ground, pulling people into the ground. When Yi Qiao realized something was wrong, she quickly stepped back. It's really not me this time, I swear. She didn't do anything, and all of a sudden it changed. Qi Lu took a deep breath. Seeing this scene, it should be us who did it this time. What did you do? You actually stimulated this guy who was watching secretly. Yi Qiao was puzzled. Can I join? The corner of Ming Xuan's mouth twitched. That's unnecessary. Adding everything will only harm you. So what is that thing that swallows people? Meow Meow interrupted their fruitless conversation. her scalp tingling. She had never seen such a large-scale disappearance. The king of ghosts just mentioned. Chi Yu said in a hurried voice, quickly explaining, it relies on this method of eating its own kind and cultivators to increase its cultivation. Qi Lu's face also turned green. Stop talking, run. A group of people started to run wildly, while Qi Lu turned his head while running, throwing magic weapons to the black ghost that was constantly extending to appease it. Facts have proved useless. It chased even crazier. Yi Qiao also took out a few bombs and threw them backwards. Physical attacks obviously had no effect on the Ghost King. Chang Mingzong was a master at group running. Seeing that these people were too slow, Yi Qiao pasted 2 talismans and led them to speed up and rush forward. What are ghosts afraid of? She tried it, and the other things didn't have obvious effects. Only the flying immortal sword can cause damage, but it can't be used to deal with ghost kings. Buddhas on the other side of Buddhism repair the sky and subdue ghosts. The problem is that a group of them are all disciples of Taoism. Don't be dragged by its ghostly hand. A paper fan spread across a circular arc, forming a protective formation. After Mingxuan blocked it, he came to a conclusion, otherwise you will be pulled away. Miao Miao threw away the alchemy stove in her hand, and the green alchemy stove became bigger. She said quickly, hide behind first. It is now randomly arresting people, and it will arrest whoever it sees. A group of people quickly shrank behind the alchemy furnace, temporarily avoiding the fate of being swept into the battlefield. We have to find a way to stop it. Yi Qiao looked at the scene outside. I'm afraid this can't be stopped. Qi Yu smiled bitterly. The law of survival in the ghost world is to constantly devour and assimilate, otherwise how do you think they can increase their cultivation? Cultivators and ghost cultivators are their nourishment. We are also in this field now, and we can't protect ourselves. Don't be so pessimistic, Qi Lu said without any fluctuations in his tone, because thanks to our death, it is not eager to devour other people now, and it has its eyes on us. So honored, so happy. Shit. The 2 of them, brothers and sisters, can't be said to have done a lot of evil on weekdays, so why did they come across this kind of thing? Qi Yu clenched his fists. Actually, if you think about the good, it is also a skill to be able to accurately anger the boss behind the scenes. I just don't know. Qi Yu muttered to himself, how is it going to punish us? No matter how powerful the Ghost King is, it is impossible to swallow them all at the same time. If they just swallow and disappear, they still have a glimmer of life. Just be afraid, this Ghost King is mad and wants to torture them to death. Qi Lu hid behind the alchemy furnace and observed calmly for a while. When he saw a tall tower-shaped thing appearing not far away, his heart sank. Seeing that he couldn't avoid it, he asked deeply, friends, listen, never heard of the tower? No. The 4 illiterates shook their heads in unison. Qi Lu's expression became a little melancholy. The Ghost King Tower is divided into floors. Going down from the th floor, there are different experiences in order. If you want to quickly break through the nascent soul stage, entering the tower is the best choice. It's just a chance, and risks are accompanied. The tower is only allowed to go from the top to the bottom, but no one has ever reached the bottom. Yi Qiao listened to his words logically and raised her eyebrows. So, have any of you been to the last 18th floor, which is the lowest floor? Qi Lu touched his chin. That's not true. He looked deep. But we should see each other soon. The moving Ghost King Tower almost swallowed them all in an instant, fell into it, and fell all the way to the number 18 floor. A light green halo quickly enveloped, firmly protecting everyone inside. The few people who were thrown were a little dazed, and when they looked up, they met several pairs of eyes. It was as if a figure stood quietly, sensing the arrival of a living person. They all rushed over in unison, and the uniform behavior was like a hungry wolf tearing apart a corpse. From this group of people, The breath of any living person could not be caught at all. Yi Qiao narrowed her eyes. 18-story Ghost King Tower. Unexpectedly, other people need to go through the th floor, but they don't need it, because they started with the th floor. Get out of the way. The 6 people scattered like birds and beasts immediately. The ghosts around them were too fast, 5 fingers bent into claws, waving their hands towards their hearts. Yi Qiao split them open, and found that these ghosts had almost no weaknesses to speak of. Qi Yu screamed, covered her face, and hid behind Yi Qiao. It's not a human being, it's a kind of ghost cultivator. Yi Qiao stretched out her hand and pulled a ghost cultivator. When the ghost cultivator wanted to tear his heart out again, she stuck a sleeping talisman on his body and used it like a stick without mercy, causing him to bump headfirst into another ghost cultivator's crotch. Grass. The male monks present reflexively tightened their crotch. Pain. It hurts too much. After receiving this kind of chicken-beating warning, the faces of several ghost cultivators who were going to continue to support themselves by eating them all turned green. What about the weakness? Don't rush to fight, analyze first. Qi Lu was anxious. That is the lowest floor in the legend, number 18 floor. The effect worked, and Ming Xuan and Su Juo immediately began to learn Yi Qiao's behavior. Miao Miao first made the alchemy furnace smaller, then suddenly enlarged, and smashed the alchemy furnace cuckoo at Gishu's crotch. Why are you so proficient? Qi Lu was silent for a few seconds. He found out a magic weapon that could be used, stabbed it, and pressed it down in one go, barely protecting the younger sister behind him. This young master of the Qi family is also a genius. He knows how to use other magic weapons besides refining weapons. But he still wanted to discuss countermeasures, but turned his head and the group of personal bishops swept away with ghosts like crazy. Facts have proved that no matter how good your kung fu is, you are still afraid of killing a chicken. Such as. Ming Xuan accurately kicked the ghost shadow's lower body, and in an instant the shadow disappeared in place as if it had endured the unbearable pain of life. It's very exciting. Qi Lu was more or less a decent person before, a noble son in the family. He once thought that Ming Xuan was the same as him. Until he saw the other party grab people and throw them at those ghost cultivators, sweeping them away, pick each other's crotch. This kind of behavior of beating the master to death with fists is sick, but not against the law. Chevron _ left previous home index next chevron _ right. Tap the screen to use advanced tools tip. You can use left and right keyboard keys. I saved the whole sect by playing badly. Chapter 204 I don't accept. Those ghost cultivators have no obvious weaknesses. After all, they are ghost cultivators. They are different from ordinary monks. If you want to find weaknesses from them, you don't know how to find them. Vomiting blood. After the ghost cultivator in front of him was attacked, his figure dissipated, and Yi Qiao confirmed 1 point, clone. Most of the ghost cultivators who surrounded them were clones. That means that the ghost cultivators who created them are really strong, but no matter how strong they can't stand the operation of being kicked at the lower parts one after another. Seeing their clones being kicked out one by one, the main body panicked. If the avatar is scattered, it will be scattered. If he is kicked, he will really have no children and grandchildren. The male ghost Shu was heartbroken. The group of monks looked better than the other, and they were also ruthless. The avatars were broken up one after another. He decided not to continue struggling, put away the avatars, and jumped to the highest point. Wait a minute. Seeing that they took out the magic weapon and wanted to knock him down, the ghost cultivator said in a cold voice, "You must have rushed all the way up from the first floor, right? I have been here for half a month, so I can tell you some information. You were yelling at us before. Now tell us the information." Yi Qiao took out the flying immortal sword and sneered, "Then you'd better go die." The bright sword light formed an arc, slashing towards the place where the ghost cultivator landed. He was secretly startled for a moment. The sword in your hand is a light attributed spirit sword. The ghost cultivator noticed the expressionless faces of several people, and he didn't dare to relax his vigilance, for fear of being hacked. This kind of light attribute spiritual sword, which suppresses evil things, might tear his head and body apart with one strike. Yi Qiao suddenly let go of the sword in her hand, and laughed. Don't be nervous, we just want to talk to you about this number 18 floor. After all, we are just here, in such a place where we don't know the situation. We won't take it easy. You die, don't worry. The ghost cultivator also believed it. He stuck to the edge of the tower and said, you guys climbed up from the first floor to the 18th floor like us, right? He shivered and fell into the memory. I can't get out at all. We all made it to the 18th floor, and all our companions died. Maybe we are all containers chosen by the Ghost King. He muttered to himself, only if we are strong enough, can we persist to the number. Th floor. It's a mid-stage nascent soul, but obviously its strength is not enough. You are all better than me, there must be a way, right? He could only put his hope on this group of people. Because those who have experienced the 17th floor have all climbed up after a narrow escape. The clothes of those people were more dilapidated than the last, and their spiritual energy was almost exhausted, but judging by the state of these 6 people, it was obvious that they were able to do a job with ease, and they were unscathed when they fell off. However, Ishu, who has been brainstorming, made a mistake in his calculations from the beginning to the end. That is, none of Yi Qiao and the others are masters at the nascent soul stage. I have not experienced the first 17 floors. If this ghost Shu is willing to fight seriously, apart from Yi Qiao's forced opening of the domain, he can't be dealt with at all, but he was already frightened by them. Even if he found out that this group of people were only at the golden core stage, he would automatically find a replacement. Big bosses like to keep a low profile, so it's normal to cover up your cultivation and pretend to be a pig and a tiger. Mingxuan blinked, not understanding why this ghost cultivator looked at them in awe from time to time. Qi Lu saw some signs of it, and pinched Ming Xuan to signal him to keep quiet and watch Yi Qiao perform. Yi Qiao also smiled at him. We are monks who have come to practice in the realm of comprehension. We will strive for a breakthrough and then return to the realm of comprehension. I have heard of this place for a long time, so I came here to challenge it. Qi Yu was startled by the way she opened her eyes and said, nonsense. What kind of challenge was it? Didn't they get involved inadvertently? Gui Shuzu quickly looked around at these monks. His pale expression could not hide his astonishment. Then you must have reached the peak of nascent soul. That's why you organized a group to come to the Ghost King Tower to find excitement. Yi Qiao's phrase, strive for a breakthrough, refers to breaking through the peak of Jindan, but what she said was too vague, and she didn't need to give more guidance in the future. Yi Qiao didn't deny it, but asked, how to get out of the number 18 floor. Do you know? Shocked by the peak of nascent soul cultivation, Ghost Cultivator completely lost the will to resist, shook his head, and said in a low voice, I've been here for half a month, and you are the first batch to reach the th floor. I have used up all the elixirs on my body, and I will continue to replenish energy, so there will be people who don't know Mount Tai and attack you. Ellipsis. On the other side, the 5 sects dispersed, and Yue Qingzong was still looking for someone who could form an alliance. Song Hansheng was eyeing Bishuazong, but was told that Bishuazong chose Janjianzong as an alliance. Asking Sword Sect is strong and lacks alchemy, so of course it will accept Bishui Sect. After Song Hansheng was rejected, he pondered for a moment and planned to talk to Yi Qing'an. They wanted to enter the Ghost King Pagoda, and now there were only 3 of Yue Qingzong's personal heirs, Song Hansheng, who dared not take risks, for fear of encountering danger. After careful consideration, he still chose to talk to swordsman asking Zong. It is not impossible for the three sects to form an alliance. Although there will be some differences when the treasures are divided, Song Hansheng dare not joke about the lives of fellow sects in such a dangerous place. Song Hansheng was not the only one who wanted to enter the Ghost King Pagoda. Yi Qing'an also planned in the same way. He was not surprised that Yue Qingzong came to the door. He just took a half step back and asked in a calm voice, "What's your business?" "Song Hansheng, I want to see you. That's why I came here." He stepped forward. "Do you want to talk?" There is nothing wrong with this sentence, but for some reason, Yi Qing'an popped up Mingshuan's sentence, "Is your beloved brother Song Hansheng not here?" Looking at Song Hansheng's earnest attitude towards him, Yi Qing'an, who repeatedly thought of this sentence, couldn't hold back, took 2 steps back, expressionless. "I'm sorry. Your love is too heavy. I don't accept it." Song Han raised his eyes. What? Song Han's normally calm voice trembled because he was disgusted to the extreme. Chu Exingji was the first to be furious, and Kunzujian couldn't help but rush towards everyone in Yuqingzong. "He actually has such inappropriate thoughts about my elder brother." Song Hansheng moved back, and pasted the Zhang Ding talisman with his backhand to calm down Chu Exingji. "Who told you that I have unreasonable thoughts about you?" Yi Qing'an was silent for a while. "Mingshuan." Song Hansheng squinted his eyes. "It's Chang Mingzong again, right?" He remembered. He was disgusted for a while, and he didn't have the heart to go around in circles, so he said, "We are going to enter the Ghost King Tower. Should you also need the talisman repair array? The Ghost King Tower changes rapidly from the 1st floor to the 18th floor." Yi Qing'an nodded. He recognized Song Hansheng's strength, so he didn't refuse. The 3 sects formed an alliance, and Si Miaoyan had no objections, so the atmosphere of the team was barely harmonious. As a result, the moment they stepped into the Ghost King Tower, when Yi Qing'an and the others looked back again, they found that the Bishuazong and Yuqingzong had disappeared. Why did the natal lamps of these 2 little devils go out? Xi Chuxiu was a little nervous at first when he heard this, but after he glanced at Yi Qiao and Mingshuan, he said lightly, "Oh. Maybe the quality of the lamp is not good." "Qin Fanfan, how is it possible?" "The natal lamp is a lamp left after accepting apprentices to observe their state. Although I know that there are always some accidents in the ghost world, such as being trapped somewhere will cause the flame of the natal lamp to be temporarily suppressed, but the 2 were trapped. The speed is too fast. In this case, 2 lamps were suddenly extinguished. Something must have happened. It's normal for the ghost world to have such a situation." Xi Chuxiu was afraid of being hit again by the irritable senior brother, so she wittily hid away, and added, "Besides, isn't there Yi Qiao?" Qin Fanfan was still worried. He cast suspicious glances at Xi Chuxiu. "How old is Yi Qiao?" "She's 17 years old. Why do you have such high expectations for her?" Xi Chuxiu laughed twice, her brows and eyes curved. "Isn't that kid called the light of our Chang Mingzong? It's only natural for me to have expectations of her." Qin Fanfan believed him to be a ghost. "Bring the natal lamps of the 2 of them, and ask the elders of the other 4 sects to bring the natal lamps handed down by them to a meeting." After thinking about it, Qin Fanfan was still worried, and was going to inquire about the situation in other sects. "How's it going?" Taking advantage of the fact that there is no danger so far, Yi Qiao can only collect information as soon as possible during the continuous dialogue with Ghost Shu. She squinted her eyes and said suddenly, "By the way, are there any restrictions on those who can enter the Ghost King Tower? For example, the weak are not allowed to enter." Gui Shu was stunned. Yes. He didn't expect that she would even guess this. Dan Shu and Talisman will be stopped outside and swallowed directly. Because these people are too weak, the Ghost King doesn't want them at all. Yi Qiao clicked his tongue. The elders didn't mention any of these news. The Ghost Cultivator knew everything. The first 10 floors of the Ghost King Tower will increase quickly. I rely on this tower to reach the middle stage of the nascent soul from the early stage of the nascent soul. When you reach the 10th floor, don't be greedy and run out as soon as possible. Yi Qiao noticed that he used run. She tentatively asked, "This place, can't you turn back?" "No. Once you enter, there is no turning back." He shook his head. "Boss, weren't you really one of the 5 most wanted criminals before?" She can figure out the loopholes in his casual words. She is too cautious. He didn't even believe that she was a good person. Yi Qiao thought about her previous experience of being wanted by the 8 great families, touched her chin, and said sincerely, "If you say I'm a wanted criminal, there seems to be no problem. I don't know how to escape from the th floor, but the problem I'm facing now is how to survive." Gishu was in a bit of pain. The only way to survive is to eliminate the black fog that keeps appearing. Black fog. Seeing Ghost Shu's frightened appearance, Yi Qiao didn't want to feel the lethality of those fog for the time being, so she stretched out her hand and patted it. The little ghost transformed into a form, and stood quietly by her side. She asked softly, "Can I enter your domain to avoid it for a while?" Quote. Xiao Qi hesitated for a moment, then hummed timidly. When Su Juo saw this brat, the corner of his mouth twitched. Taking a half step back, "He's very dangerous. Are you sure we won't get our heart out after we go in?" He has seen it. He dug a hole in the chest of the young demon master. Miao Miao poked Yi Qiao. "Qiao. You can also enter your domain, right? It's in the healing department. Just a good time to take refuge." She remembered the light green light clearly. Master healing is a very useful field. It can be said that monks with fields in the past dynasties have never had a healing field. Yi Qiao interrupted her speculation and scratched her head. "It's very dangerous. It's a bit unstable now." Others thought she didn't want them to know the specific uses of her domain. It is not difficult to understand that if the system is too simple and understood, how to deal with it will be very bad. Then stay in Shaoqi domain. Mingxuan raised his hand to signal. He was still quite curious about Yi Qiao's domain. But it seems that Elder Duan, who has experienced it once, is quite afraid of this. For this reason, he has repeatedly told Yi Qiao not to activate it so early before he has mastered its function. Even Elder Duan said so. Mingxuan dare not play dead up. After being dragged into the domain by Shaoqi, the black mist that Ghost Cultivator had said really swept in and filled the entire tower, densely packed and especially penetrating. There were still monsters in the mist trying to find food, but it turned out that the tower was empty, let alone people, not even a hair left. A group of man-eating birds gathered here. Easily dodging the wave, Gishu heaved a sigh of relief, and couldn't help but examine the group of people. "What is your background?" "Field. Even in the ghost world, there are very few domains. Maybe you can go out with them." The strength of ghost cultivators is not weak. In the middle stage of nascent soul, it can be said that there are this kind of people who don't play cards according to routines. They kick people's sensitive parts as soon as they come up. Who the hell can fight them? That's it. Gishu silently watched the scene outside. The fog here will kill people without any rules. After the fog disappears, there will be many unseen monsters and ghosts. He smiled wryly. The treasures on the first 10 floors are all trying to lure us down to the abyss step by step. In the end, he was still mourning the spring and autumn, and turned his head to find that the group of monks were collectively envious to the point of tears. But they haven't even seen the treasures of the first 10 floors. It's already this hell mode at the beginning. Ming Xuan said in a faint tone. Mu Chongxi and the others should be eating, drinking and having fun in the ghost world right now. In any case, not entering the tower is completely the best choice. That's right, Su Juo said in a faint tone. At least, A fool has the joy of being a fool. They won't be thrown under the floor tower just because they pissed on the Ghost King's territory like us. Mentioning this, a group of people stared deathly at Ming Xuan, the culprit. Ming Xuan felt guilty and didn't speak. Yi Qiao looked at the number 18th floor of the legendary Ghost King Tower, black mist, accompanied by various monsters, and after entering the Ghost King Tower, only the strongest sword cultivator was needed. She patted the head of the little boy in front of her thoughtfully, and when Xiao Qi tilted her head to look over in doubt, Yi Qiao blinked, smiled, and said lightly, "Xiao Qi, do you want to be the king of ghosts?" _left previous home index next _right. Tap the screen to use. I saved the whole sect by playing badly. Chapter 205 You don't understand. Your thinking is a bit dangerous. Qi Lu choked on her words. They still haven't figured out the law of the appearance of the fog on the floor. As a result, Yi Qiao's thoughts jumped to the point of making her son the king of ghosts. Not to mention whether they can succeed or not, how they survive is a problem. The domain does not last for a long time, and it is impossible to accurately hide in the domain every time they encounter a monster that cannot be solved. Don't worry. Qi Yu rummaged through the weapon in his hand, smiling. She's Yi Qiao. It was Yi Qiao who could bring people a sense of security no matter what. Let me ask you, who wouldn't want to experience the joy of being carried away by Yi Qiao during training? I can be more than one rookie in the team. Miao Miao raised her watch loyally, but the other one who leads the flight must be Yi Qiao. This is her principle. Qi Lu couldn't put it into words. Being separated. Zhu Yu stepped on the first floor of the Ghost King Tower and squinted his eyes. Yi Qing'an cut off the approaching man-eating bird with a sword. Where did Song Hansheng and the others go? A group of Danshu who had no self-protection ability, and Fushu who could only be beaten passively when they were close, all disappeared the moment they stepped in. Chu Exingji, eldest brother, don't mention that malicious guy Song Hansheng. Otherwise, he will definitely kill Song Hansheng to defend his senior brother's innocence. Yi Qing'an. His cold expression cracked for a few seconds, ignoring the junior brother whose head was like a weight, and looked at Zhu Yu. The way back has disappeared. Now if you want to go out, you can only continue to go up. But seeing that there are some heavenly and earthly treasures that have improved their cultivation, the danger is not great. She touched her chin, her brows and eyes were slightly emotional. I think it's a bit like raising goo. Raise us first and then slaughter us. Then keep the strongest one. Chu Exingji swept away the magic weapon on the first floor without raising his head. Is it necessary to do this? I also don't think it's necessary, but it's strange that those Danshuan talisman disappeared. If it goes too smoothly, it won't be a good thing. Blame it on the Ghost King Pagoda for doing so extravagantly, insisting on leaving talisman and Danshu behind, otherwise Zhu Yu wouldn't have been secretly wary of this place on the first floor. Hearing what Zhu Yu said, the few of them gradually calmed down after feeling a little bit of joy of picking up a bargain. If it's really raising goo, how can I get out after entering the tower outside? Can I go out after reaching the 18th floor? Then let's go up quickly. Zhu Yu looked around, and there was indeed no turning back at all. She also investigated the tower before coming to the ghost world, and the information she got came from the high-level people in the cultivation world, so it should be credible. Therefore, without thinking, she nodded. That's what the information in the cultivation world says. There will be an exit after the 18th floor. Trapped on the floor on the other side, the few people dodging left and right would only sneer if they could hear Zhu Yu's words. Rubbish information, ruin their youth, hell's exit. This was the third day that Yi Qiao and the others were trapped. No matter what method they tried, they couldn't get out of this place. They would be attacked by things that popped up from time to time, and they would die if they didn't pay attention. The Ghost King Tower is indeed one of the few good places suitable for practice. After 3 days, the foundation of Yi Qiao's golden elixir stage has been laid firmly. The heat in the spiritual root made her very upset. She punched through the monster beast, then turned her head, continued to find other monsters to vent their anger. A very familiar scene. The corners of Mingxuan's mouth twitched. I have to find a way to get out quickly. I'm afraid that my junior sister will escape the catastrophe here. The secret realm that made Yi Qiao so unhappy last time has already been punished. Now it's the Ghost King Tower's turn. No. In short, they absolutely can't pass the catastrophe here. They can't get out now. Mingxuan doesn't want to be famous in his first life, and die in Yi Qiao's thunder catastrophe. Qi Lu felt that he was worrying unfoundedly, so he waved his hand. The last time he broke through 2 realms in a short period of time was Yi Qing'an, right? He broke through the nascent soul stage forcibly. Yi Qiao is still early. It's not like she doesn't have a criminal record of breaking through twice. Su Juo muttered. Breaking through twice in the yard at that time also provoked a large number of elders to come to watch. The longer you stay here, the more dangerous you will feel. The fog will continuously devour the aura in the human body, and the Ghost King Tower doesn't even have ghost aura, let alone aura, only this mysterious fog. Ghost Shu stayed here for a month without figuring out how to get rid of the mist, until Yi Qiao pulled Xiao Qi over and motioned for the little boy to go and swallow up the mist. I guess, he and the Ghost King may belong to the same origin. Xiao Qi is also a kind of ghost. In fact, Xiao Qi has been hungry for a long time. He used to rely on his unreliable mother in the Song family for his life. The evil people feed on resentment. The Ghost King Tower is a good place to devour. The grey mist that floats over is caught by him. I swallowed my breath. Shaoqi's strength has always belonged to that kind. After opening the domain, the strength depends on the contractor. He is not strong in himself, and he is not good at fighting. Yi Qiao pulled him out to swallow the mist. The cultivation base that has been dissatisfied has been promoted. The division of labor between the several people is very clear. Shaoqi is responsible for devouring the mist, and the rest are responsible for dealing with those monsters. Ghost Shu just wanted to tell them how difficult this group of monsters are, but he found that their attitudes became more and more indifferent. Hunting monsters. Yi Qiao's expression was subtle for a moment, so they were too familiar. After killing monsters in the secret realm for more than a year, they were the ones whose heart was harder than a stone. I'm afraid that there are still rumors circulating in the great secret realm that this group of monsters are roaming around after entering the secret realm. Most of the monsters that appeared in the mist have seen them personally, and they all beat their 7 aunts and 8 aunts mercilessly when they were scoring points. Do it again, you don't need to think, and you can see where the weakness is at a glance. I finally understand why the previous 5 competitions were set in the secret realm. Mingxuan muttered to himself, wiping off his cold sweat. These strange monsters have basically been seen in the secret realm, and it is difficult to deal with them. Less fuss. As long as you grasp the weakness, it is very easy to kill with one blow. The ghost cultivator next to him didn't even need to make a move. He saw that the group of big bosses easily dealt with the group of monsters in his eyes with one move. The mighty ones. It's time for us to die after all. Our physical strength is exhausted and our aura is exhausted. The ghost cultivator felt relieved for the time being, and it was right to follow them. The man moved his wrist, summoned the clone again, and added, by the way, or if you are lucky, if you are selected by the Ghost King, you can die a few seconds later. Of course, the lucky one who is chosen will most likely die too. He will be taken away by the Ghost King and swallowed into his body. It's disgusting. At present, it seems that no matter how you look at it, it is a dead end. I'm Dan Xu. There are pills here to replenish your physical strength. If you don't have enough, there are plenty more. Meow Meow threw one of the pills to Gishu, and quickly drew the spirit bow in his hand to cover Yi Qiao and the others. Gishu was numb for a moment. Thank you. Was it actually a Danshu? The pro-passengers were very capable in their hands, and the corpses of monsters quickly piled up all over the place. Qi Lu's happiness immediately returned. Seeing that there was no danger for the time being, he immediately dissected these monsters. These things are what Qi Shu needs most, and the brother and sister immediately showed their knives and skillfully cut open the corpse of the monster. Amount. Ghost cultivator. Are you tool cultivators? Qi Yu. That's right. I'm thinking about a question. If I remember correctly, this should be the screening occasion for sword cultivators. Why would you group of alchemy cultivators and weapon cultivators get in here? This group of people have the illusion that the scripts are different. This is not reasonable. Although Ghost Cultivator is not a sword cultivator, his strength can barely meet the selection criteria. How did this group of weak craftsmen get in here? Mingxuan gave him a deep look. You don't understand. They got to this point purely because they were too cheap, and when they peed farther than anyone else, they marked the Ghost King's territory. But it's okay. He waved his hand. You'll understand when you're our age. Gishu was stunned for a moment when he heard this. He hesitated for a moment, and gritted his teeth. It doesn't matter, my lord. Please teach me this boundless mana right now. He also wants to become stronger. Today is very short. I will make up 3 chapters tomorrow. Chevron _ left previous home index next chevron _ right. I saved the whole sect by playing badly. Chapter 206. Is your Changming sect really serious? Mingxuan looked at him looking like he wanted to learn, pondered for a moment, and patted him on the shoulder. When I have time later, I will definitely teach you how to do it alone. Ghost Shu was happy, and when he was happy, he thought about exchanging information with the other party, and revealed other clues. Actually, if you haven't entered the 18th floor, you have a chance to escape from the first 17th floor. But after the 18th floor, is the territory of the Ghost King, and those who can climb up are all masters. The Ghost King is very satisfied with the situation where our group of people are fighting for their lives. The monks who can climb up will gradually kill all the living targets, and then live on with the things left by the mustard bags on their bodies. If no new people come, then the one waiting for the other party will be caught by the Ghost King and used as a container. At first, I thought it was my turn to die, but I didn't expect you to come in. Yi Qiao rolled the black mist into a ball and stuffed it into her son's mouth. It could be seen that the taste should be terrible, but now the only one who is most suitable for dealing with this kind of mist is Xiao Qi. She can only coax him to let him punch him when he returns. Can't see you, but step on KFC. Wait to kill each other until only one person is left before we can see the Ghost King. In other words, we may have to stay in this place for a long time. Meow Meow frowned. No amount of it would be enough to last this long. You can refine some pills on the spot. Yi Qiao tilted her head, looked at the only serious Danshu present, and smiled. Is there any spiritual plant? Meow Meow. Strictly speaking, their lineup is also perfect this time, with those who practice weapons, make alchemy, draw talismans, and learn swords. Yes. Meow Meow nodded immediately. I just need a quiet environment and an absolutely relaxed mind, otherwise it's easy to go crazy. She didn't dare to try it lightly, but the little girl hesitated for a moment when she saw Shang Yichao's bright eyes. Forget it, I will work hard. Yi Qiao looked at her death-defying expression, couldn't help pinching her hand twice. Okay, I can do it, don't be nervous. At any rate, he was the ruthless person who took out the big pot to make alchemy. This kind of environment is quite common for Yi Qiao, but the speed of alchemy is much slower than that of drawing symbols. I worry that the next time I do alchemy, black fog will appear and be interrupted. Yi Qiao made 16 seals at once. Miao Miao watched quietly from the side. After observing for a while, she opened her mouth to speak, but Mingxuan signaled her to be quiet. But the spiritual plants she used were too complicated. It seems to have any effect. Generally, alchemy is unified, and the alchemy seals are exactly the same, so that the elixir that is refined at one time will not consume too much consciousness. There are more than a dozen kinds of medicinal pills with different effects, all put together to make pill seals are enough for them to eat a pot. Every Danyan class is different, and if you make a wrong one, you will all fail. Miao Miao has never seen a senior sister who dared to put more than a dozen kinds of spiritual plants with different effects into it at once in alchemy. This kind of prodigal behavior is also not allowed in their clear water sect. Soon Miao Miao realized that her worries were purely superfluous, and she almost forgot that the other party had a photographic memory. Yi Qiao memorized more than a dozen types of alchemy seals at a glance. There was no pressure in the process of making alchemy seals. Her alchemy level, finished product and appearance are not mentioned for the time being. The success rate has always been % even in this situation. In a messy environment, the chance of failure is very small. She looked at those elixirs lying in the elixir furnace, and couldn't help sighing, "You guys are really rich." She also wants money. Anyway, Chang Mingzong would never be able to produce so many spiritual plants in Miao Miao's hands. All kinds of elixirs appeared in the elixir furnace. Miao Miao sniffed them carefully, and after distinguishing the effect, she quickly took out the jade bottle and repacked them, muttering, "You have this ability, why don't you go out and sell elixirs?" A bottle of elixir can definitely command a sky-high price in an auction. It's no wonder that the world of self-cultivation pursues alchemy, because there are too few alchemists who know how to make alchemy. That the world of self-cultivation pursues alchemy, because there are too few alchemists who know how to make alchemy. I've sold it before, Yi Qiao said confidently, but I don't look good to the public. My senior brother asked me to apologize to those group of alchemists. He also said that the appearance of my elixir severely attacked their eyes. Miao Miao. Oh, that ugly thing. After a pause, she probably knew that her words were not polite, so Miao Miao changed her rhetoric. That elixir is ugly, but the price is cheap, and it caused our Bishuazong to be criticized by a group of monks for no reason. Is your Danshu right? She collected herself. Is it definitely you? The price of Bishuazong's pills has always been high, and suddenly a cheaper one appeared, and the effect was not worse than them, which naturally caused many monks to be dissatisfied with Bishuazong. It can be said that Yi Qiao took most of the responsibility at that time. Yi Qiao didn't deny it. Miao Miao raised her head and supported her forehead. It really was her. She just said who would be such a genius. After the alchemy was over, Yi Qiao lay down on the ground, and found a warm blessing from heaven falling on her fingertips. She squinted her eyes, shook her fingertips, and accidentally discovered that her cultivation base had increased a little. This was the first time that she felt the growth of her cultivation base on the alchemy path, and Yi Qiao couldn't help but let out a long sigh. It stands to reason that she has practiced alchemy quite a few times, but from the beginning to the end, she has never increased her cultivation in alchemy. It's no wonder that she never raised her cultivation base on alchemy Dao, and she was not satisfied with the co-authored one that was refined before. Is it necessary for Go Tiandao to be so harsh on her? You are dissatisfied with the hammer. Yi Qiao wanted to scold Tiandao, but was afraid that he would be struck by lightning in the next second, so he could only swallow it, and quickly divided the pill in his hand. A sudden blessing from the heavens made other personal transmissions a little confused. The ghost cultivators in the ghost world may have never seen what this golden light is, but ghost cultivators instinctively dodge things like light, and there are many discussions about what it might be. The Ghost King Tower has been built. What? The Ghost King Pagoda, which has never seen the sun, will be blessed by heaven. Seeing this familiar blessing, Mu Chongshi was so scared that the chicken legs in his mouth fell to the ground. Damn it, Yi Qiao and the others won't really enter the Ghost King Tower, right? Zhu Yu lowered her eyes and thought, I was thinking, with Yi Qiao's character of being able to lie down and never stand up, what made her draw symbols on the spot? There is danger in the Ghost King Tower. Zhou Xingyun answered calmly. Mu Chongshi clapped his hands and stuffed all the chicken legs into his mouth. Then I'll go too, they're all inside. Zhu Yu, I know, he said, but we need to prepare. First of all, Zhu Yu showed a cold expression. First figure out what this Ghost King Tower is. It seems that ever since they came to the ghost world, the information around them has been reminding them that there are incredible treasures in the Ghost King Tower. As long as they go in, they can gain cultivation. Such inspiring words. Zhu Yu is cautious and doesn't let his brothers and sisters get close to the Ghost King Tower. Investigate this kind of place before going in, so as not to encounter any uncontrolled situation. Ellipsis. Yi Qiao's alchemy doesn't stick to one type, such as tonic pills, and even a weird one called weakness pill, which is said to be able to pretend to be sick after eating it. This kind of elixir. Qi Lu looked at it for a moment. Just when Miao Miao thought he was about to reprimand him loudly, the boy turned his head and his eyes sparkled. Wow, are you thinking of selling it to us? The next time the family refinery assessment, we will get to and skip class directly. Wonderful. Mingxuan grabbed her clothes and roared, if we don't take out this kind of elixir sooner, we won't be chased by senior brother because of skipping class. The more he thought about it, the more he felt heartbroken, but if he had brought out this elixir earlier, they would have been able to catch fish openly. Miao Miao. No. Are you Changmingzong really serious? Why did Haoduanduan want to skip class? Chevron _left previous home index next chevron _right. Tap the screen to use advanced tools tip. I saved the whole sect by playing badly. Chapter 207. These people are playing him. We can have one. Didn't the King of Ghosts want to choose a powerful container? Then we must be as weak as possible. Yi Qiao threw the pill to the others. Compare who is more capable, or who is the first can't hold back. They are all raising goo. What they need to do is to wait a little longer to raise Xiao Qi. So in the next half month, the 6 of them will not only be busy killing monsters, but also act part-time. Gishu looked at the group of people numbly, coughing for a long time, as if they were all going to die in the next second, and he fell into a long silence. Qi Lu clutched his chest, and kindly gave Gishu a few pills. Brother, do you want some too? In terms of strength, a group of people couldn't beat this ghost cultivator, but the ghost cultivator had already been fooled by fools at the moment, and instinctively imitated them, fearing that he would be abandoned because he didn't fit in with the group. So he nodded and joined in. The monsters and the others dealt with them very smoothly, and the mist that was released to devour people was all fed into the stomach by Xiaoqi, which means that the Ghost King was as fierce as a tiger in one meal, and finally half a month of busy work was wasted. He also had doubts in his heart, and tried to observe this group of people secretly, wanting to see if there were any powerful monks who were suitable as containers. As a result, this group of people looked sickly, and they didn't look like powerful monks. The Ghost King decided to speed up the fog, kill them, and wait for the arrival of the next batch of monks. Unexpectedly, half a month passed. On a whim, he observed the goo worms he raised, and found that these people were still alive and well. The Ghost King had to suspect that the group of people were playing him. He thought for a moment, and decided to send the little devils under his command to investigate the strength of this group of monks. If they were too weak, then they should assimilate them all, so as not to have long nights and dreams. Ellipsis. After swordsman asking Zong entered the Ghost King Tower, the first 10 floors did not even encounter any major obstacles. There were a lot of heavenly spirits and earthly treasures stuffed into the mustard bag. This smooth process made people feel a little flustered. The disappearance of the group of talisman cultivators forced them to cheer up and observe the surrounding environment. There was no light on the 11th floor, and their vision was covered by darkness. They could only explore with their spiritual sense. Unsurprisingly, it all went out. Yi Qing'an drew his sword, swept away those things that were struggling to get close, and let the unconscious black puppets separate with a single stroke of the sword, and said coldly, "Puppets. Do not." Zhu Yu's tone was dignified. "It's a living dead. The number is a bit too much." Chu Exingji walked ahead to clear the way. Not only did he realize it, Zhu Yu's expression was also slightly dignified. The first 10 floors were quite harmless, but after the 11th floor, it seemed as though there was no concealment of malice, and all kinds of dangers followed one after another. It was pitch black in front of him, and unknown objects quietly protruded from all around, and gradually approached. All of them held Chu Exingji tightly like silk. His movements froze, and subconsciously cut off the dense black silk threads with an inch of snow. Not only him, but the other 4 were also entangled. It's like a cocoon wants to wrap people in it. If it is really wrapped inside, will it still be a person after it comes out? They thought of this at the same time, struggling even more frantically. Yi Qing'an took a deep breath, and the frozen domain opened, and the moment the frost froze, it was like a knife cutting off the silk lingering on the bodies of the juniors and sisters. Hurry up. At this time, we can only continue to go down. Number 12 layer. The Luoshui sword broke the puppets at the waist, and the black cocoons were smashed by the opening of the domain. The dense worms seemed to be approaching them constantly. Creatures of all kinds appear, all unheard of. If Yi Qing'an was alone, it would not take much time to reach the 18th floor. The problem is that there are 4 younger brothers and younger sisters behind him. It is undoubtedly very difficult to drag 4 in one. The King of Ghosts looked at the group of people secretly, and finally chose Yi Qing'an. If he could reach the number 18 floor, then he would consider using him as his own container. Yi Qing'an, who had no idea that he had been targeted, went all the way down to the after after the 16th floor. I was finally able to catch my breath. The 16th floor. What is it this time? Yi Qing'an didn't dare to relax his vigilance. This kind of thing is very troublesome. Once he is entangled, unless he frequently opens the domain, he will only be left here waiting to die. He will not be attacked. But when the other 4 have no domain and the evasion ability is not good enough, it is easy to be recruited. The number 16 floor looks much gentler than the other several floors, at least on the surface. Zhu Yu could feel the tingling voices coming from her ears. She covered her head and groaned in pain. Noticing that junior sister was not in the right mood, they paused and supported her. What's wrong? Zhu Yu blinked, and the emptiness in his eyes dissipated slightly. Have you ever heard of phantoms that feed on human emotions? A very troublesome existence. They will grab the weakest person in their hearts and stimulate them. Then keep approaching that person, driving him into madness and assimilating him. Zhu Yu finally understood where the living dead came from. She clutched her forehead, expressionless. Go first. It seems that the person they found was me. Chu Exingji, Yi Qing'an, and several other senior brothers are more tenacious than her. Zhu Yushu's sentimental way. It stands to reason that this kind of way is not easy to be trapped in illusions. After all, those who practice the sentimental way generally have more eyes. But also because of this, it is easy to get entangled. She could only smile wryly at this. she didn't expect to be entangled by such a reason. As soon as Zhu Yu closed her eyes, she seemed to be able to hear countless voices echoing in her ears. She barely controlled the movement of drawing her sword, but she didn't want to stage a battle of wits and courage with the air. The longer you stay, the higher the possibility of being assimilated. Zhu Yu looked at the others and urged, "You guys get out of here first, and I can figure it out myself." No one moved. Yi Qingyan looked at her silently. "I'll stay. Phantom ghosts pick the ones that are easy to break through, right?" He remembered this. The elder said it in class. The young man's voice was still clear and cold. With lowered eyes, it's enough to show some flaws on purpose and let them divert their targets. Bah! Zhu Yu was stunned for a moment. "Elder brother." She had no expression on her face. "Then you have heard from the elder. Unless you can crack the phantom fast enough, it will only be a matter of time before you are assimilated. The 16th floor is completely incomprehensible. Whoever gets entangled can only consider himself unlucky. No. If Yi Qiao is asked to come, maybe she will have a solution." Chu Xingji looked at the black lines on Zhu Yu's body, and he took a deep breath. "Don't dawdle, let me do it. I'm asking my heart. It's more suitable than you. Ask your heart, ask your heart." Unlike ruthless Tao, it is easy to go crazy when surrounded by so many phantoms. Asking the heart is really a practice that only those with a clean mind can do. Kun Zu approached him softly, with white dots of light lit up, and he pressed the spirit sword on his waist. "I'll stay, you guys go first. Chu Xingji is more suitable for the 15th floor than them. At least when Xindao is not easy to shake the morality in his heart. Compared with other unstable Taos, he is more tenacious. The belief of a pure man." Seeing what Chu Xingji said, they immediately entangled each other with a laugh. Phantom ghosts are easy to deal with, and the heart can be broken, as long as the spirit is not polluted or assimilated. Chu Xingji watched the black gas on his hand spread. He smiled wryly twice, and touched her head. "Maybe there will be an exit on the 18th floor. Just come and find me when the time comes." Zhu Yu was shrouded in fear and wanted to persuade him. "No, the Ghost King Tower is not allowed to turn back, and everyone can only have one chance to go from the 1st floor to the 18th floor. You wait for me." She tried hard to control herself from crying. "I can break this too." She didn't need to let her senior brother pave the way for her. They all knew that those who were left behind would probably only be able to stay on the 16th floor forever. "It's not so scary." Chu Xingji muttered and wiped her tears. "I will try my best not to be interfered, but I am a cultivator of the mind, and I can't survive this, so what else is there to practice?" He finally understood why the elders sighed at him from time to time, as if they really hadn't experienced any hardships from beginning to end. Chu Xingji cheered up. His eyes brightened slightly. "Elder brother, did I protect you once this time?" The elder brother was the goal he tried to catch up with before, and this sentence was not to prove anything. Chu Xingji just wanted to tell the other party that the junior brother who often looked up to him can now be alone. Yi Qingyan hummed in a low voice, and took away the emotionally broken Zhu Yu. "Wait for us." The young man exuded a cold aura, his face expressionless, and he continued to go down to the 18th floor. He wants to see what kind of demons and ghosts they are. Almost before Janjian Zong continued to walk down, Mu Chongxi, who had figured out the details of the Ghost King Tower, dragged Zhou Xingyun all the way in, and the two sword repairers did not bring Zhu Yu this time, because after all, the Ghost King Tower did not allow Danshu to enter. They came after sword asking Zong. The first 16 floors were almost completely cleaned up by swordsmen asking Zong. They took advantage of it. Chasing all the way to the 17th floor smoothly, seeing Janjian Zong fighting wits and courage with those unknown creatures, Mu Chongxi waved his hand and asked Chaoshi to help. The Chaoshi sword belongs to fire, and it is not an ordinary spiritual fire. The 17th floor is brightly lit. Seeing the light source, Zhu Yu and the others instinctively looked up, almost thinking that Chu Exingji had come out. As a result, they caught a glimpse of Changmingzong's Zongfu, and they all fell silent again. _left previous home index next _right. Tap the screen to use it. Leave the whole sect by playing badly. Chapter 208 Mental state finally assimilated. The number 18th floor was never an exit, but was completely trapped to death in the place where the goo was raised. I advise you to calm down. Mu Chongxi shook his head irritably, speaking very fast, and told Zhao Shi and Duan Chen to leave the room quickly. Several people intercepted on the number 17 floor. 2 sword spirits blocked the way. Yi Qing'an looked up irritably. It's you. Zhu Yu took a step forward, and said in a slightly difficult voice, have you seen my second senior brother? Less than a stick of incense apart, Zhu Yu hoped that they had seen it, but the two looked at each other and shook their heads. They did not see Chu Exingji. When we came, the first 16 floors were full of corpses of those weird things. There were also things attacking us from behind, and they were dealt with by the elder brother and the 2 sword spirits. Day and night conquer the present things, even if there are ghosts and monsters, they dare not approach easily. As for Chu Exingji, I really didn't see it. Really? Zhu Yu's fingertips trembled violently. He firmly controlled his emotions, and looked at the 2 sword spirits. Then please get out of the way. She didn't believe that Chu Exingji would be easily confused by phantoms. Compared to this, she wanted to go down to the 18th floor and find a way to rescue him. Without the sword master's order, Zhao Shi and Duan Chen were as deaf as if nothing had happened, while the other looked sullen. No one would budge. Our little junior sister, have you seen it? Mu Chongxi didn't go around in circles with them. Oh, by the way, there is also Ming Xuan. Yi Qing'an was slightly stunned, and said expressionlessly, she's not here. They walked all over the first 17 floors. If Yi Qiao was here, the first 17 floors of Ghost King Tower would not be so quiet. Mu Chongxi embraced her chest. Will you be the ones who gave the blessing that day? You mean, Yi Qiao is also in the Ghost King Tower? He denied. Impossible, we have never seen her along the way. We are going to the 18th floor. Yi Qing'an repeated Zhu Yu's words. Get out of the way. He wanted to see what kind of monsters and ghosts were there on the 18th floor, but no matter what it was, Yi Qing'an was full of hostility now, just want to ruin the place. Are you sure to get out after entering? Zhou Exingyun looked at them calmly. If you are not sure, it is your pleasure to die. Usually he would never talk so much, but Zhou Exingyun was also a little irritable after learning that maybe the juniors and juniors of Changmingzong were also in the Ghost King Pagoda. Yi Qing'an's act of colliding with him made him extremely unhappy. Do you think I dare not kill you? Yi Qing'an's feet moved slightly. Chu Exingji was left on the 16th floor without knowing his life or death, and Zhou Exingyun, who was trying to obstruct him, had an undisguised murderous look in Yi Qing'an's eyes. The 2 nascent soul stages fought without warning. Zhou Exingyun didn't answer, and looked at him for a few seconds. The slightly drooping arc of his lips remained unchanged. The foot also staggered the field. In stark contrast to Yi Qiao's vibrant realm, it was barren and nothingness. At the moment when the domain was opened, Zhou Exingyun understood that the domain reflected not only the Tao, but also the Tao mind. Realm of nothingness. The opening of 2 consecutive domains caused the number 17 floor to fly into a huge riot. Zhu Yu was stunned. What is that? Field. Mu Chongxi didn't raise his head. Brother's field. For a person like Zhou Exingyun with a very Buddhist attitude, whether he wants to comprehend the domain or not depends entirely on his mood. Very capricious, but the world of comprehension is originally a talent to speak. Ellipsis. Ah. Tell them not to fight. Don't open domains, big brothers. Ghost Shu almost knelt down to this group of people. What's the trouble? There are 2 domains opened on the th floor. What if it collapses? Oh, it's the bottom floors that are miserable. The 17th floor is full of battles, and the collision between the 2 domains can easily form a strong airflow and oppressive feeling. Even on the 18th floor, one can feel the turmoil. The people who came to the Ghost King Tower this time were all demons and ghosts. Can they hear us communicating with the th floor? Yi Qiao also felt the breath of the domain. She wrinkled her nose. He raised his foot and kicked the surrounding towers. Or, I will also open a domain and join the domain chaos. She didn't come to break 'em up. She could definitely join them. Ghost Shu was powerless to complain, and hurriedly stopped Yi Qiao's devil's thoughts. No, 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 they are already scary, don't join 'em anymore. The 6 of them stayed in this place for half a month, and the grass was about to grow by now. The Ghost King has been observing this group of th floor people, and will send little ghosts to try to assimilate them all from time to time, so they have captured countless little ghosts in the past few days. Xu Yichao held the Phyxian sword, caught the subordinates sent by the Ghost King, and beat them vigorously. Facing how to deal with these little devils, Ming Xuan lazily raised his hand, and the suggestion he gave was to take off the pants. Qi Lu clapped his hands suddenly. Good idea, take off the pants and hang them in a row to insult their spirit. Qi Yu showed an expression that couldn't bear to look directly at him. To be honest, her brother was barely a normal person before, right? After staying for half a month, the mental state was finally assimilated. Ellipsis. The 2 nascent soul stages coincidentally disappeared in each other's domains. Zhu Yu saw this and tried to run to the 18th floor. Mu Chongxi noticed her movements, stopped her, and said helplessly, "Don't go, why don't you listen to my advice? The th floor has a higher risk factor than here. The assimilated people here still have entities. As long as the th floor of fog is contaminated, it will be continuously assimilated and become a living dead sooner or later." He didn't understand what these people were thinking. She raised her head and stared at Mu Chongxi, and slowly let out a breath. You can't find Yi Qiao and the others too, can you? Then why can't you go to the 18th floor to have a look? At the very least, they want to save Chu Exingji. No matter what is on the 18th floor, they have to go and have a look. Mu Chongxi hesitated for a moment when she asked her. In the next second, the girl Luoshui's sword came out of its sheath without warning, and the icicle turned into a blade like a blade, forcing Mu Chongxi to the corner, and could cut the opponent's throat with just one finger. You are right, the 18th floor must be very dangerous, but there is also the only way out. Otherwise, would we have been wasting on the 17th floor? Zhu Yu said. They can afford it, but the second senior brother has no time. If you waste time like this, there is really no chance to bring Chu Exingji back. Mu Chongxi understood her mood, kept silent and did not stop her. In fact, he suspected that the 2 restless Yi Qiao and Ming Xuan were also in the Ghost King Tower, but he had never seen them from the 1st floor to the 17th floor. If you are also trapped in the tower and lost like Chu Exingji. When a group of people fought in the dark over whether to go to the th floor, Zhao Shijian was a man of action, and he floated down, stepped into the th floor, and shouted along the way, "Don't fight." He rubbed his chin. I think maybe the number 18 floor of the Ghost King Tower might be different from what you imagined. Chevron_left saved the whole sect by playing badly. Chapter 209 Big Brother's Domain. Don't fight. After Zhao Shi finished speaking, seeing that no one moved, he urged, there is really nothing on the th floor. If there is something to say, what about the brats who were hung in a row? The friction and collision between the 2 nascent soul realms caused trembling on the 17th floor. There is no need to lie day and night, and Zhu Yu also wants to go to the 18th floor. Seeing what Zhao Shijian said, Mu Chongxi didn't continue blocked. A group of people immediately went to the bottom. Then he was stunned by the scene in front of him. Question: what's in the th floor? Answer: there are demons like Yi Qiao. A group of brats were hung up in a row. Their pants were ripped off by some wicked person. Yi Qiao was still talking hypocritically. Hey hey hey, don't be nervous, we are not some devils. The rest of the people must have been there for a long time. Mingxuan and Qilu were very active in playing guessing games. It is not difficult to understand that the two of them can get along well. But it depends on the occasion. The two nascent soul stages on the 17th floor were fighting hard to go or not, and the domain sword spirits took turns to fight. As a result, you guys at the bottom floor, Sui Yujing, are you playing guessing games? The two sects who rushed over upon hearing the movement were collectively silenced. Sometimes I always feel. Mu Chongxi looked up and couldn't help touching his arm. Dogs are more like humans than them. Zhou Exingyun was also shocked by the scene in front of him and was speechless. Who took off the pants? After a long while, the senior brother asked with difficulty. Seeing them coming in, Mingxuan clapped his hands and showed them his artistic behavior. I did it with Qi Lu. After seeing so many personal biographies, Qi Lu did not forget that the purpose of this time was to make more personal biographies, so the young man happily abandoned Mingxuan, and introduced himself to them in a personable manner. Qi Lu is a descendant of the Qi family. Please give me more advice. Unexpectedly, the eyes of the pro-bishops looked at him more complicated. Stripping people's pants together with Mingxuan, is this direct descendant really serious? You guys fought before. Yi Qiao could feel the airflow from the opening of the domain. Her eyes sparkled. Is it the senior brother's domain? Yes, yes. Do you want to take a look? The senior brother's domain. Seeing that she was interested, Mu Chongxi frantically urged her to go in and take a look together. It is said that Yi Qiao's domain is out of control, so if you don't show it to them, then it's okay to see the big brothers. Zhou Exingyun saw that both of them seemed to want to see it very much, so he ignored Yi Qing's cold gaze. The field of nothingness opened, and the two disappeared in place. The moment Yi Qiao stepped in, she couldn't feel anything. In this state, the only person who stepped into the field without knowing anything would be killed. She moved tentatively, without any support under her feet, and she was in one place. In the empty space. It is a very dangerous area, and it is simply a good place for assassination. After being released from the realm, Yi Qiao lowered his eyes and recalled the feeling just now, and Mu Chongxi also recovered from the shock. He thought of the feeling of being shrouded in the realm and being classified into nothingness, and he was very excited. Eldest brother, after your domain is opened, does it feel like life and death? The other party's life and death are all in your hands. Seeing that Zhou Exingyun really wanted to answer, the others immediately pricked up their ears, wanting to hear his domain name, but Yi Qiao interrupted. Don't ask so many questions. Yi Qiao kicked him twice, signaling, now, it's time to work. Having domain names leaked is not a good thing. What work? Mu Chongxi poked the kid who was hung up. Join in your perverted performance art. Qi Lu also seemed to have noticed that his actions just now made the group of close relatives not convinced of him. He hurriedly tried to restore his image, so he told everyone the deduced truth. Ghost King Pagoda is a good place to raise goo. This tower is not so much called the Ghost King Tower as it is a spiritual weapon. Although its name is not listed on the spirit weapon list, it is undeniable that it is a spirit weapon. It was only obtained by the Ghost King and cultivated into a good place to raise goo. After half a month, we have extraordinarily rich experience in prison, and concluded that he is not strong, nor does he become the Ghost King by virtue of his cultivation. The key point is this Ghost King Tower. Qi Lu clicked his tongue twice. This is a good place to raise goo. As soon as he gives an order, all the ghosts can be driven by him at will, and maybe there will be our companions inside. This is the disgusting part of the Ghost King. In a place like the Ghost World, the strong is king, and the comprehension world doesn't care about it, which led to an evil creature completely occupying the tower, cultivating it, coaxing the monks into it, and strangling everyone to death in the Ghost King Tower, forming a large area of undead. Of course, he is also smart and knows how to let a few monks out alive in order to promote the magical effect of improving the cultivation base in the Ghost King Tower, so that even if some monks think it is dangerous, they will continue to enter it. If you want to go out, you have to approach that Ghost King first. Excuse me. Mu Chongshi raised his hand. The Ghost King shouldn't be able to hurt it, right? As far as I know, little ghosts are a kind of gas, so they can't hurt at all. My Chaoshi sword, and Yi Qiao's the Flying Immortal sword is fine, but the damage is negligible. The sword spirit is fierce after it takes shape, but it is still too difficult to deal with the sword spirit that only takes one form every day. While the few people were chatting, the familiar mist drifted over again, and swordsman asking Zong was so slow to react that he was almost infected. Qi Lu swiftly threw a few defensive magic weapons to block the mist. Be careful. Once this thing is touched, it will get into your body and swallow part of your spiritual consciousness. At that time, you will always feel that there is something lacking. Anything, no matter what medicine it is, can't make up for it, and it will go crazy in the long run, and then be assimilated. The magic weapon couldn't resist for long. Yi Qiao jumped to the back, 2 steps almost turned into afterimages, threw Xiao Qi over, and motioned him to eat up. Seeing the surprised reactions of others, she explained. Ghosts can devour each other. You can understand that things like ghosts can devour each other. The strong can devour the weak. Just like playing snake. Chop it into pieces and let Shaoqi devour it. Want to raise goo, right? Yi Qiao planned to let him raise enough. She quickly added, just don't let Xiao Qi be caught during the period, and when Xiao Qi is almost raised, we will go to the Ghost King to play. Ghost King. Hearing what she said, Zhu Yu, who was originally lifeless, raised his head slightly, and his voice contained a bit of hope. If you find the Ghost King, does it mean that he can find my second senior brother? In fact, in the sect, the one who has the best relationship with Chu Exingji is not Yi Qing'an, but her. Yi Qing'an doesn't know how to teach people. She was led by Chu Exingji. Zhu Yu tried her best to hold back her emotions, and asked such a sentence carefully. Yi Qiao always felt that if she shook her head, she would cry. However, she really dare not say whether the Ghost King can do it. So Yi Qiao didn't answer. Little junior sister, little junior sister. Mu Chongshi noticed that the atmosphere was not right, and quickly touched her arm to rescue Yi Qiao. He asked, how did you get here? Zhou Exingyun also saw Zhu Yu's reaction and thought of Chu Exingji who was left behind. He also grabbed Yi Qiao with the other hand, and his expression became serious. What is the price you paid? Be the first to come up. Haven't they encountered phantoms, or did you encounter something else? Yi Qiao turned her head and saw that the 2 senior brothers were playing riddles in an unclear manner. She thought about it. The price. Did you pay the price? She has always heard Gishu say that the first 17 floors are not friendly, but she has never seen what it looks like. Mu Chongshi shook his head. We didn't either, but Chu Exingji was left on the 16th floor. He was afraid of poking Janwenzong's heart, so he kept his voice very low. Therefore, he could still understand why swordsman asking Zong was in such a bad mood that he wanted to go straight to the 18th floor. Yi Qiao suddenly realized. No, we started on the 18th floor. And they didn't intend to enter the tower at first. Let's do the work first. After hearing the whole story, Mingxuan couldn't care less about taking care of Janzong Wen. At least you have to try it before you know if the Ghost King can do anything. The longer you delay, the more dangerous it will be. There were only 2 talisman cultivators on the scene before, and he assumed most of the responsibility for transferring the battlefield, while Yi Qiao, who was able to fight and defend, took over the responsibility of protecting this group of people. It would be much easier to have a sword cultivator join. The most hard-working people on the scene were the sword-asking sect members. The black mist would automatically evade when it sensed danger. Yi Qiao hugged Xiao Qi and let him eat up his area, and then threw it to Yi Qing'an. Xiao Qi was thrown into Yi Qing'an's arms in a daze. The young man was exuding coldness, but he didn't let go. He hugged him. Yu Jian swept into the air, pointed at the cloud of mist, and uttered a word, "Eat." Xiao Qi immediately tried to swallow it in his stomach. In order to get out of the Ghost King Tower earlier so as to rescue Chu Exingji, swordsman asking Zong was desperate enough. Soon, with the cooperation of a group of people, all the gas on the scene was swallowed up. Zhu Yu was a little anxious. This speed is far from enough. Is there a way to attract more fog? The safest thing to do right now is to wait. But they couldn't wait at all. The longer the delay, the less likely Chu Exingji would survive. Yi Qiao really had no other way. Zhu Yu dug out something from the mustard bag, a dark green stone. "I have this. I can make a deal with the King of Ghosts. It is said that it contains hundreds of years of cultivation, and it is extremely attractive to monks and ghosts. They're only in their teens and are far from able to withstand hundreds of years of cultivation, so this stone is prepared for the master, and the master has already absorbed 2/3 of the spiritual energy in it, and the rest of Zhu Yu is intended to be with the senior brother. We shared it, but there is no need to hide it now. I think the Ghost King should really want this." The Ghost King lacked cultivation, so he would reject this kind of black stone that could increase his cultivation in vain. At that time, use stones as bait and wait for him to appear. Yi Qiao glanced at her. "Yes. It's just who are you going to give the ink stone to?" "Shaoqi. Zhu Yu. Here, you are his master, but..." She considered for a moment. "You will also be in danger. If the Ghost King is really attracted by the ink stone, he will attack you. I can take it too. As long as Xiao Qi is willing to follow me down," Zhu Yu said and glanced at the brat. Xiao Qi looked at the woman who was trying to separate herself from Yi Qiao, and said in a sweet voice, "Want to play a game?" Zhu Yu took 2 steps back. "Excuse me. It seems that the other party does not accept it." Yi Qiao didn't think there was anything wrong with it. The Ghost King's fighting power was actually quite funny. His headache was his large army. She has the flying immortal sword, so it's not that difficult to deal with it. Zhu Yu gave her the ink stone and breathed a sigh of relief. "Thank you, this is for you as a reward." Yi Qiao thought about it, but didn't refuse. Deal. She also wanted to play with that Ghost King. Zhu Yu knew that Yi Qiao didn't need something like Moshi to improve, but the other party didn't refuse, which undoubtedly made her feel better. With a spiritual thing like ink stone, the Ghost King came over after smelling it in a short while. When he found Moshi on Yi Qiao's body, he immediately lost the thought of raising Gu, approached silently, and launched an attack suddenly. A pair of black hands made of thick fog stretched out to imprison Yi Qiao, and prepared to snatch Moshi. Moshi was thrown into the field by Yi Qiao the moment he approached, so he couldn't grab it. Seeing the appearance of the Ghost King, Yi Qing'an said calmly, "Use the sword array." The disciples of sword-seeking Zong drew their swords together, and the white and cold sword shadows transformed into thousands of sword shadows, and they flew towards the Ghost King, but were cut into several pieces by the sword shadows. Can compete with the Ghost King. The Ghost King who was stabbed ran away. Dozens of ghost hands reached out, grabbed Yi Qiao's ankles, and dragged her into the ground. Yi Qiao had seen how other people disappeared, and she was prepared in her heart. She hugged Xiao Qi tightly in her arms, and was grabbed by the ghost's hand in full view, and dragged into the ground. The heartbeats of Chang Mingzong's people were stimulated by the accident in front of them, and they subconsciously wanted to follow. Don't be nervous. Ghost Xu, who understood the situation, reluctantly explained. She was just taken down, and she should appear in the same place as the person who disappeared outside the tower before, and now the Ghost King is also going down. We are safe for the time being. Chevron_left pre. I saved the whole sect by playing badly. Chapter 210 and quat. Awkward. Come. And quat. She opened her palm slightly, and let herself fall into it. Everything unfolded, and the light green light once again protected and wrapped people tightly. Land firmly. The ghost hand that grabbed her obviously didn't expect what the light green light on her body was. The Ghost King was obviously stunned, ready to kill with murderous aura. Yi Qiao dodged twice, and the defensive talisman shattered. She turned over and stood up, calling out, Mr. Bujian. You can kill whatever you want this time. It's fine to chop him up and feed him to Xiao Qi. Yi Qiao touched Mao Mao's head, signaling him to hurry up. I didn't see Jun happy to open her beautiful eyes wide. Okay. Xiao Qi's eyes were full of killing intent, and the overwhelming domain enveloped the surrounding area. With the cooperation of the two big killers, the Shaoqi domain can control the speed of time. With this increase, even the Ghost King has to weigh whether he can beat it in this domain. And in half a month, Xiao Qi has eaten the buffet for so long, even if his strength is not as good as that of the Ghost King who has survived for a long time, it is not necessarily impossible to restrain him. Unexpectedly, Jun opened his palm, and the silent black silk thread tightly strangled the Ghost King, strangled him away, and Xiao Qi went to eat the Ghost King's body without hesitation. Realizing that he might be swallowed back, the Ghost King no longer hesitated, let out a strange low moan, and began to summon his subordinates. Is the Ghost King asking for help? The Ghost General hesitated for a few seconds. Is it a drill? No. Can't you? Is it okay for the Ghost King to practice and exercise their reflexes? When the Ghost King started calling his younger brothers, Yi Qiao also quickly looked at the situation in front of him. The mutilated limbs were shrouded in bloody smell. As if she could hear someone screaming, she stabilized her mind and found a familiar breath. She walked to that inconspicuous place, and the scene in front of her looked ordinary, nothing. Yi Qiao stepped in, and the scene before her eyes changed. In the concealment formation, a group of monks were huddled together, and they seemed to be shivering and would scream in the next second. The formation is full of group talisman cultivators, as well as weapon cultivators. Only talisman cultivators have a bit of attack power, so when she sensed the intrusion of a stranger, Song Hansheng almost blew her away with a paper talisman. Yi Qiao quickly blocked it with a defensive talisman. Still being bombed, he took 2 steps back. Don't. It's me. The familiar voice made Song Hansheng pause slightly. Yi Qiao tentatively walked in again, and it really was a hidden formation. Seeing so many alchemy, talisman, and weapon repairers trembling, she tapped the ground, and said twice with meaningless emotion, those are all treasures. Talisman Shu, Dan Shu and Qi Shu are rare treasures in the world of self-cultivation, but when it comes to Ghost King, they become the bottom of the food chain. The elders know they will cry. Ellipsis. After Yi Qiao left, the Ghost King also left. At least there was no need to worry about safety. Zhu Yu lowered his head and counted the time. His anxious appearance confused Qi Yu and the others. What happened to you guys? Mu Chongxi roughly explained the reason. Qi Yu suddenly realized. She looked at Zhu Yu, and explained, but the Ghost King Tower does not allow turning back, and do you know how to pull your senior brother out of the phantom ghost? Zhu Yu nodded, not ignoring the sharp questions in her words. I hope the Ghost King has a way. Now she can only hope that Shaoqi can swallow the Ghost King and rescue her senior brother. The King of Ghosts has nothing to do with phantom ghosts. Qi Lu narrowed his eyes. knowing that there was an opportunity to connect with swordsmanship. Asking Zong, he said softly, "If you trust us, we can go there." Zhu Yu was slightly taken aback. Knowing what his brother was thinking, Qiyu nodded accordingly. "The few of us have never been to other floors. We started the game on the 18th floor. If we turn back, there should be no problem. The Ghost King Tower does not allow turning back, but they are not turning back. They have never been to the 16th floor from the beginning to the end, so naturally they are not within the scope of the word turning back. Theoretically speaking, they can enter and exit the first 18 floors at will. And we have a heart-cleaning bell." Qilu knocked, and there was a crisp collision sound. The moment it spread, the tiredness was swept away, and the upset brought by it before was suppressed. Qilu smiled. "How about it? Do you feel much clearer in an instant?" If they dare to say this, they actually have the corresponding magic weapon as a guarantee. The Qingshin bell of the Qi family can pull out lost souls, and it can play a role in saving their lives when they fall into illusions or other situations. Zhu Yu didn't expect him to go straight to the 18th floor. She saw hope for a moment, and excitement gradually filled Wubo's eyes. "Then please, if you can bring the second senior brother back, I will do whatever you want me to do." "Can?" Qiyu shook her head. She couldn't guarantee that she would be able to bring him out safely, but we will try our best. If we succeed, we will ask Janzong for a promise," Qilu said. Yi Qing'an's steady voice sounded from behind. "No problem." With the promise of the chief disciple, Qiyu and his brother looked at each other, and immediately prepared to go to the 16th floor to see if they could save him. Ellipsis. A group of people were hidden in the concealment formation. Tens of thousands of monks who were dragged into the ground by innocent people gathered together. Then they witnessed a feast of massacres, and countless monks and ghost cultivators fell in front of them. The only group of remaining monks gained a short respite by relying on the hidden formation of Yue Qingzong. At first, Song Hansheng only fished out the Bishuazong and Yu Qingzongs and threw them into the formation. As a result, after other monks broke into it, they found that they could hide their breath, and they all got in immediately. Song Hansheng didn't want to kick all these troublemakers out of the formation. The concealment formation is not a panacea. The more people there are, the easier it is to be exposed. He didn't want to save this group of casual cultivators. In the end, Simiaoyan and the others stopped him, persuading him that he would be punished for being so cold-blooded, causing Song Han to stare at them several times. "You were also arrested." Si Miaoyan looked at Yi Qiao. "Aren't you a sword repairman? It stands to reason that the Ghost King should like her with strong force value, right?" Yi Qiao. Hurry up, this underground place should be the Ghost King's lair, right?" He was angered by Xiao Qi and Bu Janjin just now, and the rescuers are coming soon. She grabbed Simiaoyan and the others were about to run away, and Simiaoyan hurriedly shouted, "Wait for Yi Qiao. There is no way out here." They also looked for it, and there was no way out of the Ghost King Tower. "Did you find the way out?" Song Hansheng saw her grabbing someone and ran away, thinking that she had found the exit. Yi Qiao quickly replied, "No. Let's go to the 18th floor to meet them. Find a way out with a hammer. There is no way out for this Ghost King Tower." But Yi Qiao really has other things to do, so there is no need to tell this group of people. First throw them on the th floor and join them. If the Ghost King is enraged, someone has to share the firepower. Yi Qiao doesn't want to achieve the achievement of being chased and killed by the Ghost King after the Demon King and Evil God. They are all on the 18th floor. Si Miaoyan hesitated for a few seconds. Then my junior sister also came along. Miao Miao is here too. Yi Qiao led them all the way up. Perhaps the Ghost King didn't expect them to dare to come in without a door to hell, so he immediately opened the first 18 floors of the Ghost King Tower to them with a big laugh, letting them they threw themselves into the trap. There are really many treasures in the first 10 floors, and Yi Qiao didn't politely stuff them all in the mustard bag. If they couldn't fit, they used the domain to pack them. After a group of people rushed to sweep up, they continued to go up. The murderous intent appeared at the beginning of the 11th floor, because in addition to the talisman repair, he also brought the Dan Shu of the Bishui sect, Song Hansheng, as the main combat force, inevitably had to be distracted to take care of it. As a result, before the defensive talisman was handed out, he looked at the rows of Jade Water sects consciously looking for a place to hide in the alchemy furnace. Song Han was deep in thought. Has the Clearwater sect been completely taken over by the retarded members of the Changming sect? When they came to the 16th floor to save people, Qi Lu and Qi Yu held the Qingshan bell. If they failed, the dangerous swordsmanship Zong would definitely accept their favor. An unclear favor, no matter how you look at it, it is not a loss. The Qi family are all group tool repairers, and they are also the most qualified businessmen of the 8 families. They never do business at a loss. Did you find it? Qi Yu and Qi Lu looked around, opened a tulle cover, and flicked away the phantom approaching them. Hurry up. This magic weapon is only one time, and it only lasts for a short time. This kind of cover can be used to save lives, but in order to ask for the favor of Janzong, they have to take a risk for everything. Did not find. Qi Lu irradiated it with the night pearl, and his face turned slightly pale. So many phantoms. A piece of black pressure. Brother over there. Qi Yu pointed to a young man who was about to be covered. Is that him? Quick. Qi Lu immediately said without hesitation. Find a way to catch him and catch him to the 18th floor. Catch people first, and then figure out how to get rid of phantom ghosts. As long as they are not completely assimilated, there is still salvation. Qi Lu has the cultivation base of the late Jindan stage. He stretched out his hand to hook Chu Exingji, but was dodged. Immediately following was the opponent's irrational Jian Guang. The magic weapon on Qi Lu's body shattered at the sound, seeing that the opponent would continue to slash a second time with his sword. Qi Yu shouted, Chu Exingji. The boy's movements were slightly stagnant, and he had a reaction. Qi Yu took a deep breath and rang the Qingshan bell. This time it was not for the so-called deal, they really wanted to save him. Qingshanling frightened all the phantoms who tried to get close. Qi Lu wrapped Chu Exingji with a chain and dragged him away. Qi Yu was shaking Qingshan bell, and with the cooperation, he really dragged the person over. Just when he was about to succeed, Chu Exingji suddenly made a movement, and the long sword smashed on Qi Lu's shoulder with a destructive force, leaving deep and visible wounds. The two of them are not Chu Exingji's opponents at all. Elder brother. Let's go. Qi Lu was caught off guard by the sneak attack. He gritted his teeth and was about to take his sister away when he heard movement not far away. Ellipsis. Relying on the few cooperations in the secret realm, the 3 clan biographers finally reached the 15th floor through hard work. Yi Qiao finally saw the so-called phantom on the 16th floor. Qi Lu and Qi Yu were also on the 16th floor at the moment, and when they saw them coming back, they waved in surprise. Yi Qiao. Let's go. He can't be saved. It's no wonder that the two of them are cold-blooded. They have thought of all the methods they should think of, but the other party just doesn't get in, and they're immune to Qingshanling. There is really no need to waste time. Yi Qiao, who was entangled by phantoms as soon as she entered the 16th floor, noticed that they looked strange and kept whispering something in her ears, but compared to the illusion in the ghost mystery, Yi Qiao felt that it was really pediatrics. She ignored their spiritually polluted voices, trying to find traces of Chu Exingji. The young man was completely submerged in the group of phantom ghosts. She tried her best to scan around with her spiritual sense, and noticed the white corner of her clothes. Yi Qiao clicked her tongue twice. If you were wearing all black, I really couldn't find you. Yi Qiao rampaged all the way, successfully bumped into several phantoms in one breath, then stretched out her hand to catch him, but failed. The boy exuded a ghostly aura all over his body, and he did not hesitate to attack her. Yi Qiao turned over to dodge his sword, but Zhun Bianhuan slashed fiercely sideways with his long knife. Kun Zu almost let go. Chu Exingji looked at her even more gloomily. Damn it, Yi Qiao. He beat you too as well. Qi Lu nodded, careless. Yi Qiao clicked his tongue twice. She wanted to pull Chu Exingji back. Who wouldn't want to ask Janzong for favors? If he could be saved, then they would have to ask Janzong for a sum of money, and they could only be obedient. Seeing that the blow failed, Chu Exingji backed away blankly, and was about to hide again. Yi Qiao didn't want to pick him up in the crowd anymore, so she quickly shouted, Yi Qing'an. No matter how shaken the Qingshin bell in Qi Yu's hand just now, it didn't work, but Yi Qiao stopped him with a light word. Chu Exingji. Yi Qiao immediately knew how to keep Chu Exingji. She smiled. With this level of strength, I will only be despised by my senior brother. This kind of attacking words was learned from Xi Chuxu, and the little uncle didn't know what was going on. Every time he trained, he found Mingxuan not pleasing to the eye, and would taunt each other from time to time, making Mingxuan furious. Not to mention pretty happy. Si Miao said blessings to the heart, and then shouted, think of your senior brother. Yi Qing'an is watching you. Sure enough, Chu Exingji, who had been silent all this time, responded. While he was standing still, Yi Qiao took a sword and started to sneak up on him. She didn't know if she gained experience from the sneak attack or what happened, so Chu Exingji dodged accurately. Gusheng, you are really on the rise, you are different, you dare to hit your father. Yi Qiao said a few words cheaply. Facing Chu Exingji, who was furious again, he stabbed the Fixian sword with his backhand, this time showing no mercy. The young man's ability to dodge is excellent, the sword style glowed red, and he slammed down on the 16th floor of the ground. Yi Qiao frowned. Not a good look at this reaction. If he was really assimilated, she couldn't take him away. Others couldn't help much. Qi Lu also tried, but all ended in failure. You guys go first. Yi Qiao grinned her lips. I'll try to see if I can beat the dog up to the point of conviction. It is equivalent to the danger of being entangled by phantoms on the th floor at any time, and the th floor is obviously much safer. Yi Qiao's flying fairy sword appeared on her fingertips, ready to fight this floor to the end. No one moved. Song Hansheng asked her, if I stay this time, will you thank me sincerely? Of course it is. Yi Qiao paused, then smiled and annoyed him. No. Yi Qiao called Shangbujan to restrain Chu Exingji together. In the constant battle with Chu Exingji, Yi Qiao realized that this person is really not weak at all. If Chu Exingji hadn't admitted defeat quickly, it would not have been so easy for her to win. Phantom ghosts are especially partial to her. A group of phantom ghosts ran into the brain to cause mental pollution, and they also had to avoid Chu Exingji's attack when he was mad. The few people have wasted a long time, and if they don't leave and get entangled by phantom ghosts, no one will be able to leave. And so, aren't you going? No one knew who asked her. It was a gentle female voice. Yi Qiao thought it was the group of phantoms who were pushing Lai Lai again. Don't go. Yi Qiao shook her hand, covering her neck that was almost severed. I will have a fight with him today. Oh no. She changed her mind. After pulling Chu Exingji back from this ghostly place, she not only wants favors from the other party, but also asks him to call him dad. But, female voice. She frowned and looked at the sword hanging on her waist, but she didn't see Zhun Fei going out to tie Chu Exingji. The only one hanging on her waist was Fixian's sword. The moment Yi Qiao turned her head, the spirit sword lit up a little bit, turning into a gentle white shadow. Fexianjian stretched out his hand towards her. His voice was like a whisper, and he said with a gentle smile, "Kiao Kiao. Come." Shining brightly, the flying immortal sword appeared in front of her eyes. Yi Qiao held the sword, and under the soft light, it was like her bright eyes. Fexianjian is strong when it meets strong. Yi Qiao raised the corners of her lips coldly towards Chu Exingji. She has been unable to approach because of these phantom ghosts. Fexianjian is their nemesis. After a brief transformation, under the bright light, instantly immediately frightened all the phantoms around. Without those phantoms haunting him from time to time with mental pollution, the kidnapping went very smoothly. At this moment, Yi Qiao's anger that had been suppressed for a long time finally vented out. She slashed down with her sword, and kicked Chu Exingji without hesitation, making him half kneel on the ground. Ellipsis. The two playing badly. Chapter 211. He can't beat monster beasts. A group of people worked together to forcibly tie Chu Exingji back. The most important thing at the moment is to wake him up first. Now that the young man has been assimilated by half or 1/3, the immortal rope tightly tied Chu Exingji so that he could not waste to fool around. Qi Yu shook the Qingshin bell in his hand, trying to wake him up. Apparently there was no response. Get out of the way. Yi Qiao couldn't wait to slap Chu Exingji. If you don't wake up, your elder brother will despise you. Chu Exingji barely reacted when he heard the word Yi Qing'an. Yi Qiao had never seen such a brain-dead person. Who the hell would believe this? They said that there was no response for a long time, but when Yi Qing'an was mentioned, he would wake up for a few seconds. It is rare to hear that being captured by phantom ghosts can be successfully escaped. Even if the person is pulled back, it will not help. Qi Yuqing's heart bell was shaking in his hand and Chu Exingji didn't see any reaction. To be on the safe side, Song Hansheng twisted briefly made a suggestion. Leave here first. Go to the 18th floor and meet them. Bishuazong and Yuqingzong also went to the th floor to meet other people. Going alone is not a good choice, but Yi Qiao is always at home when she is alone. She shook her head and looked at Chu Xing, who was tied up like a wooden man. In other words, I have other things. See you later. Now the King of Ghosts has gathered a group of ghost generals and little ghosts eager to encircle her on the th floor. The King of Ghosts has confirmed that she will go to the th floor. After all, the direct descendants of the th floor are gathered together. No matter how you look at it, it is the safest place. But Yi Qiao is a person who likes to do the opposite. She intends to divert the trouble to the east, and let the group of direct descendants on the th floor help attract waves of firepower first. What about Chu Exingji? Qi Yu frowned. There is still no sign of waking up. Will it be more likely that we let Yi Qing'an wake up? The th floor will be the final battleground. It's not safe to take him there. Yi Qiao vetoed this. She thought for a while, and maybe there is still salvation. In fact, she didn't really need the gratitude from Janzong, and she didn't need to do these things. She just didn't give up. She hurt each other for more than a year anyway. Even if she really couldn't be saved, Yi Qiao wanted to drag him up. Fei Xianjian gently asked her, "Aren't you going?" He also wanted to ask, "Must he stay?" Yi Qiao answered yes, and Fei Xianjian complied with her wish and forcibly transformed into a form to help her pull Chu Exingji out. Unbearable to a large extent. Yi Qiao doesn't remember this plot, and it hasn't even been written in the novel, but it is desperate enough to think about it, and the Ghost King Tower that is not allowed to return can only be left behind. Even if he couldn't be saved, Yi Qiao still wanted to pull him out. Maybe she is lucky enough to hear Chu Exingji call her daddy. The brothers and sisters of the Qi family can also enter and exit the first th floor at will. It depends on whether they want to. Qi Yu thinks for a moment. Let's go back to the th floor. The risk factor is too high to follow Yi Qiao. Yi Qiao shrugged. Then remember to call my second brother down to accompany me. Sure enough, His second senior brother is reliable. Never give up no matter how dangerous it is. After being divided into groups, Yi Qiao ran up to the th floor, which was a little safer, and the layout was opened. Since a spiritual weapon called a tower controls this place, why not go directly to find the tower spirit? As for the issue of Ta's refusal to show up, Yi Qiao has long been experienced. Just like Secret Realm and Bright Moon Arrow, if they don't force them, they won't understand what despair is. Third senior brother. She shook the jade slip and tried to contact the outside world. There was no signal in the ghost world, and you could only get in touch if you were close. Several senior brothers had entered the tower, so Zhu Yu should be waiting outside the tower. After the previous failures, Yi Qiao walked to the first floor in one breath, tried to contact again, and succeeded this time. Little junior sister. Zhu Yu outside the tower on the other side also typed the jade slip several times without any response. When he finally got in touch, he breathed a sigh of relief. Are you on the 18th floor? He was the only one who didn't enter the Ghost King Tower. It wasn't just him, the Fengongs were also outside, and they planned to go in, but Zhu Yu took a lot of effort to stop them. Yi Qiao. I'm on the first floor. There was no signal at all on the 18th floor. How much information do you know about the tower, third senior brother? This tower. Zhu Yu frowned, and organized his speech to inform the junior sister in the tower of the information he had investigated. It can move. So don't get close to the range of the tower. You will be included if you are not careful. Yi Qiao also discovered this point. They were thrown on the th floor forcibly back then. Zhu Yu continued, I heard from someone who successfully escaped from the Ghost King Tower that there is ghostly aura from the Ghost King on the 18th floor, and some strange monsters will come in from the mist. The so-called escape was nothing more than a bait released by the Ghost King and the tower, so as to encourage other monks to join in continuously. Monster. Yi Qiao repeated, thought of something, looked at the empty first 18 floors, tapped the ground with her toes. Don't come in, how about I give some tasks to the people outside? There are monsters in the ghost world, right? Creatures like monsters are everywhere. If they are controlled properly, they will be a group of killers. On the th floor, if you encounter some ghost cultivators who have never had contact with monsters, let alone half a month. Days are enough. There is nothing wrong with the Ghost King choosing to use monsters to train Gu. Now that monsters can enter the tower, can she also try to do something? Yes. Zhu Yu roughly recalled. I remember that there are monsters guarding several heavenly and earthly treasures. Yi Qiao likes Zhu Yu's meticulous mind. Then trouble catch a female monster, practice some aphrodisiac pills, bring in other monsters, and throw them into the tower. I want the tower to know who is the father. Zhu Yu. He rubbed his chin, looked at the hung-up jade slip, and muttered to himself, if I catch a monster, I will be caught by the monster, right? He can't beat monsters. However, Zhu Yu had a brain and knew how to ask for help. He turned his head and put away the jade slips as if nothing had happened, and calmly told Qin Huai, who was not far away, skilled at painting cakes, there are many treasures of heaven and earth on the first 10 floors of the Ghost King Tower. It's not impossible to break the mirror, come or not. Come on. Qin Huai, who was gearing up to grab something, quickly gave up the initial choice. What do you need us for? There is no eternal enemy who would refuse the option of cooperation in the face of interests. Not only does he need to improve his cultivation, but his juniors also need it. Tianling Dibao is the fastest way to improve their cultivation. Sooner or later, they will crush Changmingzong, kick Janjianzong, and become the number one. Zhu Yu likes to talk to decisive people. He has clear eyebrows and cheerfully announced. Then the first step is to catch a female monster. Qin Huai is not one who likes to complain and talk too much. He thought for a moment, and led his juniors to hunt for female monsters in a mighty way. He thought very simply, Since Zhu Yu wanted the female monsters, he would capture all the female monsters he could see, so he wiped out all the female monsters near the ghost world by himself. For this, Qin Huai won the title of Mother's Sorrow. Now he didn't know that he was about to win the title. The young man caught dozens of monsters, tightened them all up with traps, and threw them over. What you want? Zhu Yu quickly issued the second command. Next, you ride a monster, and in a short while there will be a monster chasing you. Don't look back. Just go fast. Duan Hengdao couldn't complain. What the hell? Why do you want our big brother to ride a monster? Why don't you run? Zhu Yu was straightforward. Ghost King Pagoda doesn't welcome weak people like me who can only make alchemy. As a strong person, only Qin Huai is left. He also wanted to ride into play. It seems that the junior sister and the others are having a good time. Duan Hengdao was speechless. Ellipsis. On the other side, the 5 sects were having a meeting. A few natal fires were dangling, and very few of them were lit, especially the ones of Yi Qiao and the others. They were jumping back and forth between going out and on. Xi Chuxiu stared at the lights, puzzled. These are on and off. Are these children planning to blow up the Ghost King Tower? It is a normal phenomenon to be on and off. The most troublesome thing is that a light of swordsmanship sect is almost completely off. It has never been turned on during the period. It seems that the situation is not good. Xi Chuxiu muttered to herself, it shouldn't be. There is a certain risk in the Ghost King Pagoda. According to his memory, one of his personal disciples did die. He is non-committal about Qin Fanfan guarding the natal lamp with other sects. He knows who is dead. But Xi Chuxiu thought that there would be no problems with Yi Qiao in this mission. What happened during the period? He frowned, afraid of making a mistake. He patted the table to signal the elders of Wang to look over, and looked at Elder Zhao of Changmingzong. Elder, please go to the ghost world. What are you doing in the ghost world? Xi Chuxiu stretched her waist. 4 personal natal lamps have gone out. What do you want to do? In theory, it is not considered to be extinguished. Once the ghost world enters some threatening places, the flame will be extinguished, but it will light up again occasionally. This is a very normal thing. Xi Chuxiu still felt uneasy. He was not suitable to go to the ghost world. He had to be an elder to go. The Changming sect was the first sect now. They sent elders, and other sects would send their own elders to follow. In his memory, the dead personal descendant belonged to sword-seeking Zong. Xi Chuxiu was afraid that Janwen Zong would repeat the same mistakes, so she couldn't help but encourage other elders of the sect to go there. Sure enough, the suzerain of the sword-seeking sect stood up, and said in a deep voice, if that's the case, then let's send an elder to join us. After all, not only the lamps handed down by the Changming sect were extinguished, but the other 4 sects were all extinguished one after another. Obviously they went in together. So far only the ones of the Changfeng sect are still on. The only lamp of Changmingzong that has not been extinguished once is Zhu Yu's. That little ghost is not necessarily reassuring. Ellipsis. Chevron _ left previous saved the whole sect by playing badly. Chapter 212. The uneasy Zhu Yu started alchemy. The first time he was born and the second time he was familiar. He can now accurately refine the aphrodisiac pill. He just needs to wait for Qin Huai to catch a female monster and attract those male monsters. Soon he refined the elixir, crushed the aphrodisiac elixir into powder, and sprinkled it on the female monster, and quickly searched for breath, and the other male monsters in heat rushed towards the Ghost King Tower like wild boars out of the cage. Qin Huai rode a monster at random. Then with a cold face, he began to direct the army of monsters to charge forward, attacking in the direction of the Ghost King Tower. Now the Ghost King Tower is completely lively. The invisible king in the tower is about to split. He is like catnip now, and has a strong attraction to monsters. Not seeing the existence of Jun, it is like adding another strong force to the aphrodisiac. causing the monsters to start rioting collectively. Song Hansheng and the others rushed to the 18th floor, glanced at Mingxuan and urged, "Yi Qiao told you to go down and find her." Mingxuan was also one of the members who could ignore the turn-back rules at the beginning of the 18th floor. At this time, only Mingxuan can never leave. After Mingxuan left, all the people's expressions were restrained, Zhu Yu's lips moved, and he looked at Qi Yu, seeing that they didn't bring him back, "My second senior brother." Qi Lu didn't dare to look at her. He dodged for a moment, and said in a low voice, "Qingshinbell doesn't work. Pull it back, but people have." Qi Yu pursed her lips, "I'm sorry. After being assimilated by phantoms, even if people are brought out, it will not make up for it." Zhu Yu froze, feeling cold all over. The girl tightly clenched the spirit sword at her waist, and barely spoke, "I see." On the battlefield on the th floor, the Ghost King's army gathered here. Before she could feel sad, she had to pack up and get rid of these ghosts. Yi Qiao threw Shaoqi to them, and let Shaoqi go after they chopped up the ghosts. Swallow each other and contain each other. Humans and ghosts confront each other. Swordsmanship Sect is the main force. They can only clear the way, and Fu Xiu uses various formations to boost them and help cover them, until a phantom ghost entangles them quietly. Su Juo's pupils turned black in an instant, and his head suddenly drooped slightly. "Little junior sister." Seeing this, Mu Chongxi kicked Su Juo precisely, and kicked him to the ground. "Calm down. Phantom ghosts will take advantage of the situation, and Mu Chongxi who asks the heart is too difficult to deal with. Sword repairers are basically stubborn, and it will take a long time to assimilate. Only Su Juo is the best to break through." Mu Chongxi didn't expect that after so long, this guy was still thinking about Yun Qiu, and he didn't know whether to call him stupid or pitiful. Su Juo regained consciousness after being kicked. He covered his ears, but the phantom that was entangled with him could not be driven away at all. Qi Lu shook the bell, pulling everyone's attention back. "Cheer up. Being assimilated will really kill you," he reminded. Su Juo nodded gratefully at the other party. Next, the two sides of the two camps, the human and the ghost, started the battle in less than a stick of incense time, when the ground on the th floor suddenly felt turbulent. Turning his head, he found that the monsters were rushing towards them at a fast speed. Ghost Xiu was stunned. "Damn it, what kind of thing is that group coming?" "Monster, beast." Yi Qing'an calmly spit out two words. "A very familiar creature. Can Nima not be familiar with it? After falling in love and killing monsters for so long, no one is more familiar with them than them." Ghost Xiu clenched his hand weapon tightly, his blood boiling. "Then shall we hit these ghosts head on and fuck off?" "No. Who would have thought that Yi Qing'an stepped on the sword and flew up," succinctly said, "fishing in troubled waters. We just need to dodge. The quicker we dodge, the better." He probably understood who made the noise. If Yi Qiao was there, she would just order the group of people to quickly hide and watch the tigers fight. Yi Qiao was not there, and it was Yi Qing'an who directed them. He said decisively, "I will give you 10 seconds to find a place for all of you. Hide it. Ghost repair. There are more than 18 floors. It can be said that every floor in the tower is in chaos, and monsters can be seen everywhere. This scene is like a melee in the secret realm." Mingxuan, who found his junior sister to join him, swallowed his saliva and did not dare to move, for fear that he would run into a monster head-on and tear him apart. They are all on the th floor, so nothing will happen to them. Mingxuan held the defensive talisman and kept vigilant. Monsters attack people indiscriminately. Yi Qiao answered irrelevantly, "Don't you think it's really easy to fish in troubled waters in melee? If we only talk about combat effectiveness, we may not have fought so many ghosts. If you invite monsters that your relatives don't recognize to enter the arena to disrupt the situation, both sides will be confused. The first 5 games of the pro bikes are not in vain. They're used to dealing with all kinds of monsters. Monster. Those who are so miserable are the army of those ghost kings. Shaoqi is eager to devour this group of ghosts. Once it is torn apart by monsters, even if the ghosts can be retransformed, it depends on whether Shaoqi will give this opportunity. The main purpose of keeping Shaoqi on the floor battlefield is to raise Shaoqi. The more devoured ghosts, the higher the cultivation level. She wanted to raise a ghost king, not just talking about it. The boy lay quietly on the ground. Mingxuan kicked him, with a complicated tone. Is he really assimilated? Although I don't like him very much. It was Chu Xingji who mocked Mingxuan the most at the beginning. But after being together for more than a year, Mingxuan scratched his head. Is there really no way? He is a self-cultivator. How could he die at the hands of such a ridiculous ghost? In the legend, he asked his heart indomitably, how can you die in such a means? Yi Qiao shook his head. Whether you can get rid of the phantom ghost depends on him. This thing is similar to the phantom, but the phantom is a serious spiritual form after all. After several failures, it will not embarrass the opponent again. Phantom is a mortal exist. And once shaken, what is waiting for the other party is to be assimilated into the body by the phantom. The Ghost King Tower is completely in chaos, and the two have nothing to do for the time being. They can only wait quietly. If Chu Xingji can force the phantom ghost out of his body, there is still hope. Yi Qiao thought for a moment, then suddenly lowered her head to draw a symbol on the spot. After painting, stick it neatly on Chu Xingji's body. Do you remember? A talisman that can transform into what the opponent desires most. The picture of Duan Hengdao hugging Shen Zivai's leg as if he had lost his mind. Mingxuan's eyes lit up. At the moment when the talisman was attached, Chu Xingji, who had no reaction at first, suddenly raised his head, and the long sword in his hand was split into two. Yi Qiao, who never expected this effect. The boy was as excited as if he had been beaten with chicken blood, but he was so lifeless at the beginning. Grass, careless. This is the only thought of Huangui. This little ghost is difficult to deal with. They first found his junior sister, they thought they were going to succeed, but who knew that this questioner was so difficult? He refused to join them anyway. As a result, Yi Qiao's talisman woke him up. Damn it, could this Yi Qing'an be his old friend? The phantom ghost did not give up, and resolutely transformed into Yi Qing'an's appearance, smiling, second junior brother. Yi Qing'an's face was smiling brightly. Chu Xingji's originally paused sword fell fiercely in the next second, and he was furious. How dare you pretend to be my senior brother? The young man's sword energy is pure and strong, including those who try to destroy the phantom ghost. Accompanied by the phantom ghost's unwilling roar, the sword wrapped in cold light burst into bright light. He took a deep breath, and the phantom ghosts in his body were densely approaching. Too much. Seeing so many phantoms, densely packed to bury him all, Chu Xingji raised his hand and gave him a sword. The tip of the sword avoided the vital point, and the pain intensified, making the young man's eyes gradually clear. He remembered what the elder brother said, disciples of the righteous way would rather die than join forces with evil spirits. Yi Qiao and Mingxuan couldn't see the scene where Huangui and Chu Xingji were fighting each other, but it didn't prevent them from seeing the stabbing of the sword and feeling stomach ache. That is the morality of asking the heart. The young man struggled to open his eyes, took a breath. His body was covered with a layer of pale golden light, which was very weak and gradually faded away. Mingxuan raised his eyebrows. Enlightenment speed is quite fast. It broke the mirror directly. The second nascent soul stage of swordsmanship asking school. Yi Qiao was so sore that she reached out her hand and shook him crazily. Seeing the young man turning his head in a daze, she was very playful, with a sad expression on her face. Go Sheng, don't you remember me? I am your favorite father. Recalling the scene of Yi Qiao pulling herself back when she lost her mind, Chu Exingji was moved within 3 seconds. Return his touch, Gubi Yichao. Are you awake? Yi Qiao returned to her previous expression after 3 seconds of playfulness. Wake up and start working. You have to get out of the tower quickly. Although Chu Xing's thunder tribulation needs to be brewed for a while, if you don't go out and fall on the tower, you may be connected to the electricity. Chu Exingji dawdled over, his eyes bent. Thank you, Yi Qiao. I don't know if it was because the light of Fexianjian was too bright at that time, and it was extremely dazzling, or it was because of her, don't go, that Chu Exingji couldn't help but want to say a few more words to her. He is simply a fetter created after being rescued, and has nothing to do with Feng Yu. Seeing this, Ming Xuan smiled, patted Chu Exingji, and said lightly, stop chatting, where are we going now? There is a nascent soul stage. At least the first 10 floors of the tower can walk sideways. In fact, melee is the best lethality, especially when monsters invade the Ghost King Tower, and the group of ghosts and people on the 18th floor belong to the situation where there is no distinction between friend and foe. Neither Yi Qing'an nor Zhou Exingyun held back. In order to protect the younger brothers and sisters behind them, the domains were opened one after another. They did not care about the lives of others, and opened the domains together. The 2 domains are opened at the same time, superimposed in the same space, and the danger caused is greater than usual. Ta Ling also realized the seriousness of the matter, and if the fight continued, this place would really collapse. The tower also has rules. Under the premise of not maliciously attacking itself, the tower cannot throw people out at will. The problem is that no one maliciously attacks it. This group of people just makes the surroundings crumbling while hurting each other. The elder of swordsmanship Sect who rushed over hurriedly used the teleportation array, and hurriedly landed in the ghost realm, frantically began to hit his disciples' jade slips, but there was no signal on the th floor. With his last hope in mind, he opened Yi Qiao's jade slip. What the hell are you doing? Yi Qiao asked the elder of Janzong seriously. He watched the whole tower shake violently, his eyebrows twitched wildly. The shadow of the former secret realm collapsed and the forbidden area was bombed came to mind. He said coldly, why does the tower seem to be collapsing in the next second? It's a good thing to be able to get in touch with Yi Qiao. The extinction of several disciples' natal lamps in a row means that there is definitely danger in the Ghost King Tower. The 5 sects plan to bring all of them back. No matter how good the training venue is, it doesn't mean that they want to wipe out all the personal transmissions. Yi Qiao touched the tip of her nose and muttered, it's none of my business. They fought on the th floor and opened 2 domains. 2 realms. Asked Janzong's high-pitched voice nearly yelled at her, who has understood it. My senior brother and Yi Qing'an. The elders of sword-seeking sect were lost for a few seconds. It was not their sect, damn it. He was lost for only a few seconds, and Zhou Exingyun had broken through the nascent soul stage for a long time. Yi Qing'an's ability in the field made no sense for Zhou Exingyun. Open the photo stone, and let me see the battle situation on your side. He tried to direct this group of pro-passengers to keep them from messing around. Yi Qiao obediently turned on the photo stone and broadcast live to them. To be honest, it would have to be the th floor in terms of excitement, and they came to the floor of the Ghost King's lair. It was a mess when I entered the eyes, all kinds of alchemy, talismans, and weapon repair groups to keep warm. Some people are born with leadership skills. Yi Qiao stood there and lazily opened the photo stone. Even if that gesture looked down on everyone, those craftsmen who were always arrogant would rarely dare to express any dissatisfaction. Like the scene in the Syrian battlefield, all the elders who came to support were stunned. What is this? A monster dance scene. These are all monks from our comprehension world. Asked the elder of Janzong's voice faltered for a moment, Why have they all fallen to such a point? That's right, she said meaningfully. Not only that, but they are all alchemy cultivators, talisman cultivators, and instrument cultivators. Where are your treasures? What? The other party's voice suddenly raised. Yi Qiao quickly took the jade slip away with experience, and asked the elder of Janzong, why are they all here? They are all talented people from rare professions. Why are they all gathered together? Yi Qiao explained what happened one after another. These people were all trapped by the tower. I'm trying to find a way to save them. However, you don't need to come in. The corner of her mouth twitched. I'm going to destroy this fool's house. It is really useless for them to come in. The root cause is not in the level of strength, but in that tower spirit. Yi Qiao. The elder Wen Janzong became serious, and angrily reprimanded, don't mess around. Have you read the rules of the door? Disciples must obey the elder's orders. Yi Qiao. Wow, what did you say? I didn't hear clearly. She hung up the jade slip and threw it to Chu Exingji, your elder. Chu Exingji looked at the jade slip that was lit up again, and hung up when he saw it. After all, it wasn't the first rebellion for someone like Yi Qiao, who violated the family rules as easily as eating and drinking. He's still a little nervous. The whole sect by playing badly. Chapter 213 and quote. I heard that you spread everywhere that I'm dead. And quote. Hanging up the jade slip that Wen Jianzong called. The elder of Wen Jianzong could only stare blankly. Chu Exingji was once occupied by phantom ghosts. If he hadn't been dragged out by Yi Qiao at a critical moment, he would not be considered a human being now, and the rules of the tower would naturally be useless to him. Now the three of them are completely madmen outside the tower. You don't have to worry about being sentenced for a stroll. It was the tower that was going to be knocked down right now, not them, so the three of them were naturally not in a hurry. It was a matter of patience at a time like this. I stayed for more than half a month, and I didn't care about it for a while. Compared with the bloody storm on the floor, the Ghost King's lair is full of food that the Ghost King grabs to eat, and it is full of lifelessness. The intrusion of monsters makes the place even more chaotic. Yi Qiao's idea came out, and she is naturally responsible for finishing. It is the worst thing for a monster to break into a group of Danshu who has no power to restrain chickens. Fortunately, the number of monsters is very small, and most of them can't catch up with the king and the mother monster, so it is easy to solve. Honestly, I'll cry when I don't see you back. After finally transforming into a stick form, Yi Qiao threw her to sneak away from the monster. I don't see you. The sword spirit can run, so you don't have to run around with a monster tied to it. On the other side, who was being chased by monsters madly. Wanna die? When he turned back, he went to find Duanchen's master and asked how he committed suicide painlessly. Ellipsis. Flying immortal sword appeared in front of her eyes, flashing light. The number 1 in the list of spiritual swords was indeed very powerful. Her knees were slightly bent, the corners of her clothes were slightly curved, and she intercepted the huge monster in front of her with a single strike. Nascent Soul Stage Monster Beast. The third senior brother is quite good at finding monsters. Basically, there is no weaker monster in this group of monsters. Accumulated strength and stepped on it, the monster howled, and the spirit sword in his hand stably inserted into its weak point and killed it neatly. Blood splattered all over. None of them wore religious uniforms. At least the red color is still resistant to dirt after being splashed with blood. The juvenile talisman easily cut open the monster that was trying to pounce on it with a twist, and squinted his eyes. It's quite calm. The story pagoda is about to be destroyed, and I can bear not seeing them. This kind of experience is really not something that humans can experience. Mingxuan was only half a month ago at the late stage of the Golden Core. He thought it would take a long time to improve his cultivation, but it turned out that it only took half a month, and his cultivation improved faster than ever before. Chu Exingji's sword light fell and drove away the surrounding imps, stepped on the ground, and the nascent soul stage monster over there had been dealt with. For a group of desperate monks waiting to be devoured in the Ghost King's lair, these three are undoubtedly gods descending from the earth. Is she here to save us? Danshu was about to cry when he spoke. Someone poured cold water on it. It's only at the golden elixir stage. There is a nascent soul stage. But although the nascent soul stage is rare in the tower, it's not that there are no ones, and it's not that none of them survived. Seeing these monks light up, Yi Qiao frowned, and quickly tried to appease their broken emotions. Hey, calm down. We can get out. There was no answer, and everyone's eyes were filled with the kind of deathly silence that was about to dissipate, but this was nothing to Shi Niu to fear. She picked a high place to stand on, and her voice increased. Does anyone know me? Chu Exingji covered his face. How did Yi Qiao ask such words without shame in front of so many monks? Someone recognized it, and said in a low voice, Chang Mingzong, pass it on personally. People gave him the nickname, Lang Lang. Yi Qiao has never been cold-hearted, and answered quickly, that's right, it's me. Although she sometimes feels ashamed by this nickname, it doesn't matter, as long as someone knows her. Then just trust me. I can take you out. Mingxun rubbed his face, and followed suit. Do you know what our Chang Mingzong can rely on first? Rely on our self-confidence. The monks looked at the confident too, and were silent for a few seconds, feeling that it seemed reasonable. After all, this group of people are extremely confident wherever they go. I dare not forget the way they walked with the wind at the beginning. Dan Shu whispered, our family thought we were dead. Few people walked out of the Ghost King Tower. These monks are rare occupations no matter where they are placed, and those who can survive are capable, so Yi Qiao naturally cannot underestimate them. Alchemy, aphrodisiac pills, right. Are there any materials for equipment repair? Please make a few bombs according to this. After you are done, you can go to the first 10 floors to blow up. There are many treasures in heaven and earth. The layout is open. Since we can't find a way out, let's make it easier and blow up the Ghost King Tower. The monk said politely, the Ghost King will not let us go. Mingxun waved his hand. It can't take care of itself anymore. On the 18th floor, the Ghost King was fighting with those close relatives. Just take the bomb and blow it up. Yi Qiao acted as the commander of the spring, and began to point out everyone. I think the pill can be stronger. The talismans are in charge of covering and protection. Their talismans can be used and defended, which is very useful. Yi Qiao clapped her hands happily as the three industries were brainwashed crazily and devoted themselves to passionate entrepreneurship for a while. On the other side, Qin Huai rode in on a monster. Remembering Zhu Yu's instructions, he only went up to the first 10 floors, and swept away the surrounding heavenly spirits and earthly treasures. Then they were left on the 10th floor. They thought that nothing had entered the tower, but they heard some movement not far away. Seeing Yi Qiao leading a group of alchemy tool repairers, Fu Xiu taught them how to blow up the Ghost King Tower in batches. Yi Qiao is actually able to engage in pyramid schemes in the Ghost King's lair. The corner of his mouth twitched. Sure enough, people's sorrows and joys are not connected, and she can make waves wherever she goes. Physical damage is the deadliest. What Yi Qiao has to do is to force Ta Ling to show up. Finally at night, the tower spirit who had been waiting quietly finally showed up. It was not captured without a fight. The little golden creature floated out slowly. Only the palm-sized tower spirit fluttered its thin wings and looked at them coldly. The coercion suddenly fell on this group of people. The weight of a tower is more than 1,000 catties. The moment the pressure fell, Mingxun subconsciously blocked Yi Qiao and the others behind him. He has learned how to resist coercion from the blessings of the heavens. The boy's palms are sealed, the curse seal is stretched and enlarged, and the talisman is hit on the tower, which can greatly weaken the suffocation caused by the coercion. He blocked it for others. Not so lucky. He coughed twice, and his internal organs hurt as if they were shattered. It hurt so much. The influence of the tower was not within the range he could bear at the Jindan stage. The ground has been submerged under the ground due to the crushing of gravity. Mingxuan bears most of the coercion, so others don't feel much. Taing was a little surprised. It intends to crush this group of people to death, but there is a talisman that can reduce the coercion seal. Generally speaking, those who can learn, or have the opportunity to come into contact with this curse seal are favored by the Tao of Heaven. Did you learn from the blessings of heaven? Ta Ling subconsciously reduced the coercion for a moment. It didn't want to be hated by heaven for killing a monk. In just a moment, all the sword spirits in the domain were released, and Yi Qiao gave the order expressionlessly. Grab it. What? What? Ta froze for a moment, watching the sword spirits flying over. For this kind of gang fight scene, if Ming Yujian is here, he must have a lot of experience. But the tower is not as weak as Ming Yu Arrow, which was sealed hundreds of years ago, leaving only phantoms. It has been cultivated into such a terrifying existence after being taken away by the Ghost King. Although coercion is useless to sword spirits, the tower spirit run fast. Are you really not coming out? She narrowed her eyes. Taing remained silent. Come out. Come out and be enslaved by her. It sees through. With so many sword spirits, this woman is definitely not easy to mess with. It is impossible to recognize her even if it is killed. Annoyed, the tower spirit made a stupid move. It imitated the ghost secret realm and moved some of the ghosts on the 18th floor to where Yi Qiao and the others were, preparing to let the ghosts bite him to death. Yi Qiao didn't fight them, making the KFC bigger, and the three of them sat on the back of the KFC and ran wildly on the first 17 floors. I've seen people stalking people, but I've never seen ghost stalking ones, but this phoenix runs very fast, turning around and giving them a bright fire from time to time, so that the burning ghosts dare not approach easily. Why can they run around on the 18th floor at will? One of the ghost generals was a little confused. Maybe because they are flirty. Slightly. Ming Xuan stuck out his tongue at him. This is the 18th floor of our start. Honorable treatment. Oh shit. Still can have this kind of operation. Tower was mad. Seeing the three of them running around arrogantly on the first 18 floors, it could only start to become impotent and furious. As for the ghost blocking the way, who the hell dares to stop them? Now the Ghost King Tower is occupied by monsters. The scene is full of a wild boar coming out of the cage, ghosts entering the village, and any ghosts passing by who accidentally look at them will be trampled by the monsters. Ta Ling couldn't bear it anymore, and she found that Yi Qiao was the most flamboyant among them. It felt it couldn't go on like this, so it pulled Yi Qiao into its space alone, and was about to talk to the monk. I can let you out. The face of the tower floated expressionlessly, but you are not allowed to care about the life and death of these ants. Your friend, I can let you go. It can open the door, but the tower cannot actively kick people out, it can only make them leave voluntarily. The higher the spiritual weapon, the more restraints the heavenly Tao imposes. After all, the heavenly Tao really favors humans. Yi Qiao clicked his tongue twice. People are ants that can be killed at will. So creatures with enlightened intelligence like you are destined to be superior to others. Is that what you mean? Almost. Spirit weapons are arrogant, and there is no good or evil. For those with poor cultivation or poor talent, in their eyes, they can easily be killed. Are you sure you want to discuss this with me? Yi Qiao just wanted to hold on to this pagoda spirit. It was the first time she was so unhappy watching something, and she put away the flying immortal sword. Then I'll show you something interesting too. Everything is born. She raised the corners of her lips. In an instant, a vibrant light fell under her feet, and the domain was opened. The entire first floors of the Ghost King Tower were covered with this strange light green color. After the Golden Core late stage, she did not have as much difficulty in mastering the domain as before, and even if the domain is out of control, the one who attacks first is the most threatening one, and the first one to suffer will be Ta Ling. Come and see if you can survive the 4-season rotations. She was actually quite curious about what would happen after being trapped in the field after the 4 environmental changes. She was actually quite curious about what would happen after being trapped in the field after the 4 environmental changes. You can't use people as experiments. Ta Ling is fine, right? Domain. Ta Ling has seen it before. The first 2 human beings went down to the 2 domains and shook their own bodies. It didn't expect this ordinary girl to have it, so it panicked and ran away subconsciously. That's too late. Pulled in for a moment, the light green field looked harmless and soft, the wind was blowing, and the temperature was suitable. Danger. However, Ta Ling's nerves stretched into a thread, trembling uncontrollably. Reincarnation. Yi Qiao stood in the middle of the field in amazement. No. It's called Wanwusheng. Respect its name. Although she didn't understand the connection between this field and Wanwusheng. What a cruel field. The tower spirit is not a human being, and it can see through the essence of this field at a glance. You cultivate the way of the common people. Yi Qiao wanted to see what it had to say. The tower was a little incoherent. In fact, the environment change in the domain did not hurt it. After all, it is a spirit and has no entity. But what scares it is after 4 rotations. Instead of saying that all things are born, let's talk about reincarnation. After 4 times, its existence is directly erased. It is not killing, but a complete obliteration, leaving no traces from then on. In terms of lethality, this field is actually not easy to use. Even if you fight against people, you need to survive 4 long reincarnations, but it is the most terrifying, because after 4 times, you can directly wipe out the existence of the opponent from the root. The first 4 times the tower was extremely terrified. Yi Qiao quickly stuffed the pill into her mouth. Thanks to her being Danshu, Zhu Yu gave enough. She was already at her limit in the first 3 times, and the 4th reincarnation was all due to pills medicine to continue life. The situation of both of them is not optimistic, and the situation of Ta is even worse. She can't hold it anymore, but whether she can kill Ta Ling depends on who can bear it. He asked, "How is it? Are you going to be obliterated?" Seeing green, red, and yellow, the last smear of blue light is about to disappear, and the reincarnation is about to end. Ta Ling's desire to survive has the upper hand, and he doesn't care about entanglements. He doesn't hesitate to break the contract with the Ghost King. Nearly fragmented, Ta Ling's figure flickered for a moment. Without hesitation, it rolled and crawled close to Yi Qiao, biting her finger. Contract. As long as it makes a contract with her, this field will not harm it. The moment the contract was concluded, Yi Qiao's consciousness almost exploded at this moment. Towers are different from anything else. This level of existence is another realm. Seeing that the contract was completed, she took a deep breath. The realm of all living things collapsed, and the tower in front of her was crumbling. Run, run. To be buried. Mingxuan only saw her disappear out of thin air for a while, and when she came back, she would look like this, bleeding from 7 orifices. Yi Qiao shook the Ghost King Tower in her hand and quickly shrank it into the palm of her hand. "Tower, I got it." Then, in the eyes of outsiders, it was just a tower that was in good condition, but it collapsed. The Ghost King Tower collapsed in an instant, and no one was given a chance to react. Everyone was buried under the tower, and the elders outside who were about to go in to rescue all stopped. It only took less than a day, collapsed. Almost at the moment when the tower was destroyed, the monks got out one after another, and the most tragic ones on the floor were almost buried. Asking Swordsman was the fastest to escape. The other sects followed closely, and the scene was silent for a few seconds after they came out. The elder Wen Jianzong couldn't help asking, "Where's Xiao Chu?" He actually wanted to ask what this group of people went through. Why did the Ghost King Tower collapse? But seeing that the expressions of these children were not right, his heart ached. Is something wrong? Qi Lu lowered his eyes and said softly, "I'm sorry. We couldn't save him. He should disappear now." The Ghost King dissipated, so the ghosts are naturally gone. All the words of the elder Janjianzong were blocked in his throat, and his mind suddenly went blank. He was about to question the nonsense of this group of people, but he saw Yi Qing'an also remained silent for a long time. Direction to go. What are you going to do? Mu Chongxi had a bad feeling. Yi Qing'an said coldly without turning his head, "Kill those high-level people in the cultivation world." Mu Chongxi groaned, and hurried to stop him. "Calm down, we can't kill the high level, and maybe it's just a coincidence. After all, we don't know much about the ghost world. It's normal for information to be wrong. Don't impulse." Yi Qing'an directly blamed the matter on the higher-ups. In fact, their information was misleading from beginning to end, otherwise they would not have easily entered. Zhu Yu always felt that this group of people seemed to have misunderstood something, so he patted his head. "Where's little junior sister? Should it be buried underneath too?" Mingxuan popped his head out. Come on, let's pour her together." People's sorrows and joys are not connected. Zhou Exingyun suffocated her to death, and also joined in the process of looking for the little junior sister. What are they crying for? Yi Qiao finally crawled out from the ruins, choked, rubbed the tip of her nose, controlled the urge to sneeze, a little dazed by the sad atmosphere in front of her, and was still thinking about whether she wanted it or not. Be sad and fit the mood. Nobody pays attention to her. Yi Qiao scratched her head. What's wrong with you? Chu Exingji is dead. Zhu Yu looked at her, as if she was about to cry in the next second. Who's dead? Yi Qiao suspected that she was hallucinating. Chu Exingji. Wait. Yi Qiao paused. Did you cry in the wrong grave? Could Chu Exingji be crushed to death by landslides in his nascent soul stage? Funny. Picking and pulling. Maybe you pulled him out. She remembered that they were buried together at that time. Yi Qing'an, who originally planned to point his sword at the top of the cultivation world. Junior sister, senior brother. Chu Exingji struggled to get his head out of the ruins, looked at this group of palpitating fellow disciples, and couldn't believe it. I heard that you are spreading everywhere that I am dead. Chevron, I saved the whole sect by playing badly. Chapter 214. The tears in Zhu Yu's eyes were suppressed forcefully, and his eyes showed a daze. She rushed over and stretched out her hand to pinch Chu Exingji's face fiercely, and then Zhu Yu unexpectedly found that she couldn't see through the other party's cultivation. Are you in the nascent soul stage? Not surprisingly, thunder tribulation has already begun to gather in the sky. I don't know how long it will take to gather. Yi Qiao raised her head, put her hand on her forehead, and let out a few meaningless sighs. Generally speaking, the higher the talent, the longer the gathering time. Chu Exingji's talent is definitely not low. Fortunately, the sword-seeking sect was fully equipped this time, and they had raided a lot of good things in the Ghost King Tower, so they should not be hacked to death if they resisted the lightning tribulation of the nascent soul stage. Looking at the second junior brother who was standing there in good condition, Yi Qing'an's usually expressionless face also showed a bit of shock. His expression was out of control, and he looked particularly dull on his face. You're not dead. Qi Lu jumped up. What the hell? Fraud. Your special mother just died. Chu Exingji crawled out of the ruins with difficulty, and he was not so polite to others. He sneered, "Is the quality of the Qi family's direct line so poor?" Song Hansheng did not hesitate, and the moment Chu Exingji got up, he accurately pasted Zhang Fulu on the other party's face. Thoughtful, TSK. It's not a ghost. It turns out that your talisman cultivators also work part-time to exorcise evil spirits. Wrong. Exorcism is too much. Who spread the rumors? Elder Wen Jianzong was also stunned by the sentence, "Chu Exingji is dead," and even thought it was a joke, but the reaction to the personal disciples was not pretending at all. As a result, he was not yet mentally prepared, turned around and found that Chu Exingji had crawled out of the ruins. This ups and downs of development made the elder of Zhanjianzong lose his heart. What kind of situation are you in the Ghost King Tower? Why is it that people on the one hand said categorically that he was dead, and on the other hand said that he might be found out by Parla Parla? I'm really not a ghost. Chu Exingji had never been so irritable before. I was controlled for a while, and finally pulled out by Yi Qiao. Her flying immortal sword was a foul. No wonder it is known as number 1 on the list of spirit swords, and when necessary, it is almost a law. Of course Qi Lu knew that he was pulled out by Yi Qiao, but the point is the latter. King Xinling can't even affect you, how did you get out? The point is that he made a breakthrough. Mentioning this, Chu Exingji was a little eloquent. I was encouraged by the elder brother in the Yichao Wangxiang talisman. That's right, it must be the elder brother who guided me out. Even though you're not there, you shine on me like a light. Yi Qing'an. Zhu Yu. The silence between the two was deafening. Chu Exingji obviously couldn't hear it, and he even made a sincere conclusion in the end. You are indeed a big brother. Yi Qing'an. Zhu Yu took a deep breath, loosened and clenched his fists again and again, and finally broke out completely. Ah, bastard. Go to hell. She also wanted to put down the butcher knife. But this guy, so fucking cheap. She cried for a long time for nothing, right? Question mark. Big brother with eyes full of eyes. Chu Exingji snorted, but he didn't expect that what he got was a merciless punch from his junior sister. He still had to cross the catastrophe. Zhu Yu could only hold back his anger and beat him up after he finished. She doesn't really believe Chu Exingji's nonsense. He speaks without using his brain at all. Leaving one of choosing alone to cross the tribulation, the others got together tacitly and briefly carried out the task of checking the information. On one side was the crackling thunder calamity, and on the other side were the personal disciples who were 8 feet away from Chu Exingji. Ming Xuan danced and imitated a few times, and said to Yi Qing'an, "You don't know, he worships you." At that time, no matter how much we shouted, there was no response. When we mentioned you, it was different immediately. This is the power of idols. Forgive them for not being able to understand the behavior. The elder of Zhanjianzong thought it was a bit dramatic, but it was a phantom. How could it be so easy to get rid of? Is Yi Qing'an so charming? The elder was dried into silence. It's the Wangxiang talisman. Yi Qing'an saw that the elders suspected that life would shoot him in the eyes from time to time, so he couldn't bear to explain. He came out by relying on the talisman, and it has nothing to do with me. Can you stop looking at me like this? Ah. He is a decent man. Yi Qing'an's fist hardened, took a deep breath, and decided to fight Chu Xing with Zhu Yu. After Yi Qiao roughly explained what happened, the elders were silent for a long time. Except for Cheng Fengong who was not present, the other 4 sects were all present. Elder Zhao patted her, laughed softly twice, and admired her. The colorful faces of the other sect elders said, "Good job. This is a great favor." Regardless of whether the other elders want it or not, they must bear her affection. Especially Zhanjianzong, he was a lifesaver. Then he motioned her to go and play, and the next step was to negotiate with the other elders. Its content is nothing more than related to interests. No matter what, she also saved the personal heir of sword-seeking Zong, and the other sects also benefited a lot. In the end, the foundation is not stable, and in the face of a steady stream of new disciples who come to the door, they need spirit stones to maintain their lives. There is nothing wrong with Elder Zhao taking the opportunity to cheat. Ellipsis. After Chu Xingji's crossing the catastrophe, he was completely in the nascent soul stage, which stimulated the others so much that they started to meditate on the spot one by one, and Yi Qiao was not idle. When she was full, she observed Shaoqi's stomach, and found that the food was all of the same kind. The Ghost King was obviously a little hard to digest, and the little boy was lying in her arms all the time. She simply patted his head and told him to go back to the domain to sleep. Yi Qiao took advantage of this moment to hook her spiritual sense on the pagoda spirit. Closing his eyes, the little golden tower spirit in his mind flew out with fluttering wings, and circled her twice. "It's you." Its tone was a little weak. "I didn't expect that your personality would be the way of the common people." "How did you find out?" Yi Qiao was not annoyed. She stared at this little thing. "Cute. Want to squeeze to death. Everything is born, and the main domain is only Kang's Heng Dao." It just cut off the connection with the former contractor, and its voice was still a little weak. "Dao, their hearts are as cold as a stone, and they will spend their whole life with the sword, and the name of the domain cannot be so gentle. To sum up, you are the common people. It's usually the will of heaven that unites the common people. But heaven doesn't recognize you." It approached her and smiled. Yi Qiao flicked the little thing away. "Speak human words. Why don't you approve of me?" She has been wondering what Tiandao is trying to write so far. The two had barely reached an alliance now, and forcibly breaking the contract another day had a great impact on it, and the entire human tower collapsed. When it wasn't a matter of life or death, Ta Ling didn't want to change contractors frequently, so seeing Yi Qiao's curiosity, he answered all of them. "If you don't agree, you don't agree. Luck is not on your side. There is no way." Approved. "If you ask the phoenix next to you, you will know that the way of heaven has not recognized you from the beginning to the end." It seems that the KFC knows a lot of things. Yi Qiao squinted his eyes and forcibly pulled out the KFC. Facing Yi Qiao's cold gaze, it flapped its wings limply twice. It doesn't really want to talk about it, and it's easy to be hated by Tiandao if you talk too much, but seeing Yi Qiao's posture is ready to break the casserole and ask the end, KFC muttered in a low voice, "Yes, Tiandao doesn't recognize you, but luck is here. It may take some time to gradually favor you. It's just not enough. You and Yun Q are half and half lucky. At least the righteous wayside favors you. You can rest assured about this." Yi Qiao looked at these two things. "What did you say and what did you say?" She squinted her eyes. "In your eyes, who has luck? More or less everyone has it, right? For example, your seniors all have it." KFC explained, "and the Yi Kingen. He has the most proportion." Yi Qiao grabbed the KFC. "Then when did the luck tilt towards me?" KFC is pathetic, the fourth secret realm. It seems that after Yun Q made a good death, Zhengdao almost all moved towards Yi Qiao. The fourth. Yi Qiao squinted her eyes. "So the so-called luck, if it is simple and popular, can it be understood as the importance of the role? Like eldest brother, they belong to the male supporting role in the original book, so they have some luck. With their approval, the luck will shift to her, and the big shift is after Yun Q's death. But after all, it is the heroine. There is no right way to lick the dog, and there will be evil ways. The Mizu side was Yun Q who had chosen firmly from the beginning to the end, so the luck was still divided half and half." Yi Qiao stretched out her hand to grab the tower spirit, and while pinching and playing, she thought about what role she was playing. Cannon fodder female supporting role. No, at least after she transmigrated in, the plot was completely messed up. The tower spirit was crushed, its wings were shaking rapidly, and its voice was crisp and clear. I heard that girls in the cultivation world are gentle and restrained. Why did you come out of such a violent alien? The voice just fell. Zhu Yu, who was busy chasing and killing Chu Exingji, flicked the sword wind, and swept away the passing monsters, angrily. Get out of the way. Don't get in the way. After a while, Chu Exingji's wailing voice came from Zhangjianzong. Yi Qiao. Poor Chu Exingji was beaten again. The tower spirit only felt that the slap in the face was coming too fast. It paused, and forcibly changed the subject. The tower has rules. The rule of the Ghost King is that the weak are not allowed to enter, such as talismans. One level does not allow re-entry and there is no turning back. Any rule will do. Tarling nodded. Don't underestimate the spiritual weapon, especially the one that derives spiritual wisdom, which is no less than multiple domains, and there is no cost, and it does not consume her any spiritual energy. Yi Qiao happily decided. Then I will make the rules later. Tarling. It didn't expect that she wouldn't take the bait. To be honest, the Ghost King is the most stupid. A spiritual pagoda has been turned into a place to raise goo by the other party. In fact, it is more than that. The tower is equivalent to a field, and two rules can be set. No matter how you look at it, it must be good. Considering it, Tarling is happy to see the opponent's stupidity. After all, if the contractor is too strong, wouldn't it be controlled by others as a spiritual weapon? The first 18 floors can be used to set up checkpoints. It completely gave up struggling. You can do whatever you want. Anyway, Yi Qiao has a lot of ideas. Yi Qiao is a genuine designer. The design is completely fine, but what is lacking is the tool repair to help design the mechanism. She simply draws the design draft first and then finds the tool repair. As for the problem of the spirit stone, she is barely a little bit, and the rest it should be enough to find Qin Fanfan under the fee, right? Qi Lu noticed it with her sharp eyes, glanced at her, and said with a casual smile, "Are you drawing something? Why don't you ask our Qi family to cooperate? It just so happens that we are very fond of the things you draw. Interested? If the effect is good, maybe it's free." The sentence, "free," made Yi Qiao's head lift up. The corners of Qi Lu's lips hooked slightly. Duan Hengdao came over slowly. At least he and Yi Qiao had a combination of the three musketeers for a short time, and he saved them twice. The young boy had a serious face. "What do you want? Can you draw it? If so, I can forge it, but some materials may not be available in Changfeng Sect." After all, most of Yi Qiao's paintings are outlandish, and Duan Hengdao doesn't dare to guarantee that he can do them. Yi Qiao immediately went to chat with the two Qi Shuku. Ellipsis. Where did the information about the comprehension world come from? Yi Qing'an said blankly. Why is there such a serious lack of information? If it wasn't for Yi Qiao, then they would definitely lose a personal pass. What he didn't say was obviously questioning. The elder of the sword-seeking sect with a slightly restrained expression. Everything you have mastered was tested by countless monks with their lives. You have been well protected for a class. Before you, some went out to practice. 25 personal pass, only surviving one person. His tone became cold, and he looked at Yi Qing'an deeply. You are very talented and powerful. But it is not a reason for you to be proud. If you are determined enough, it is impossible for you to be cornered by a few phantoms. Yi Qing'an retorted, it's just an accident. And the higher-ups are deliberately concealing it. He said coldly. The elder of Zhangjianzong did not refute this point. This is your first lesson. Don't always believe the clues given by the cultivation world. And there will be mistakes in the detailed information. We are not accurate every time. Yi Qing'an finally suppressed his anger and calmed down. The disciple knows. The first experience almost caused them to accidentally lose their lives, but the seniors before them suffered even more than this. Yi Qing'an was just out of anger, thinking that he was cheated by the higher-ups. They have almost distributed the things they got from the Ghost King Tower. The Changming sect accounts for the majority, but there are also many other sects. With the aptitude of this group of people, they can completely break through the nascent soul stage in a short time. Scenes of mirror shattering happened one after another in the ghost world, with lightning and thunder for several months in a row, and the ghosts with a radius of hundreds of miles probably knew that they were in the nascent soul stage. Yi Qiao is another matter. She needs to spend more time with Thunder Tribulation, and in the next few months, if she has nothing to do, she will wander around when other people pass on the tribulation, trying to feed her spiritual roots all at once. Every time at this time, Yi Qing'an looked at her with fighting intent. Yi Qiao's alchemy hands trembled slightly, and finally she couldn't take it anymore. What are you doing? You have nothing to do and stare at me all day long. Since she found out that alchemy can improve her cultivation, she resolutely gave up drawing talismans. Although alchemy was a waste of time, her talisman was almost saturated. If she wants to break through, she should study the pill first. Yi Qing'an stared at her with an earnest expression of, "Interesting woman, you are playing with fire." All day long, Yi Qiao really endured it for a long time before she slapped the sword over. Yi Qing'an stared at her for a moment, then said, "When can you fight with me?" It's an upright fight. He no longer counts on Zhou Exingyun. Yi Qing'an is known as the #1 swordsmanship. So far he has personally passed on the invincible internally, and the only shame of losing is thanks to her. Dream. Yi Qiao leaned back tactically, and said in a flat tone, "I will not submit to you." Yi Qing'an. "I'm afraid this won't tolerate you," he said coldly and left. Yi Qiao snorted, "You don't want to use coercive means to force me. You two talking." Zhu Yu sat down beside her lightly, raised his eyebrows. "Is there something wrong?" Yi Qiao put away her expression. "Don't worry about this, just try it out and see how it goes." Quality is top grade. The highest level of his alchemy is Tianpin, but what he refines is only the simplest Tianpin, and Zhu Yu, who is complicated, dare not try it. The level is really hard to say. From the degree of complexity to the quality of the elixir, each evaluation method is quite adaptable. If you want me to say, this is actually at the level of a half-step heavenly product. Speaking of Yi Qiao, who used to be too lazy to practice and came to prostitute herself every day, Zhu Yu was a little surprised by her sudden effort. Yi Qiao was a little relieved when she heard that the grade was not low. She was going to practice some miscellaneous pills at once. Heavenly Tao had almost strict requirements on her pills. The grade should not be too low, otherwise it would not work. She was refining alchemy, and within a few months Mingxuan had broken through the Golden Core peak stage. After the other personal transmissions were almost over, there were basically very few personal transmissions in the Golden Core stage. Seeing this scene, Yi Qiao shut herself up on the spot. The tower was taken away by Yi Qiao, and the outside world was completely confused about the reason for the sudden collapse of the Ghost King Tower. They only knew that it seemed that during a melee, the Ghost King Tower collapsed without warning, but many monks were released. Most of the cultivators felt it was a pity. After all, who wouldn't want to climb a tower that could improve one's cultivation? But a small number of them were pleasantly surprised. Some friends who were imprisoned in the tower were all released, which is a good thing anyway. At the end of this experience, everyone was exhausted and paralyzed. The ghost world is really not fun. If there is no signal, they're all spent in fighting and killing. The key point is that since the ghost world came back, the group of people in the cultivation world began to spread rumors up. The scene of the confrontation between the Ghost Realm and Sword Asking Zong was recorded by someone, and the other party frantically posted it on the forum. Wow, Yi Qing'an stared at Yi Qiao the whole time. If this isn't love. Damn it, That's Yi Qing'an's women's clothing being exposed and trying to kill her. Yi Qiao and Song Hansheng are in love with each other. I'll pick a CP name. Co Wu Ye sends a cold voice. Yi Qiao was upset. She even secretly planned to report this broken forum. In the end, she failed, and she was warned by the monk along the way, advising her not to meddle in her own business, and to be herself. Yi Qiao. Sect by playing badly. Chapter 215 The number one beauty in the cultivation world. Yi Qiao, who was warned away by the monks, was aggrieved and continued to read the content on the forum. Others don't pay much attention to these things on weekdays. She also forgot about this thing after the individual competition ended. As a result, I haven't seen you for a few months, and the forums have new ways to play. She studied for a long time, and finally lamented that people should not be too idle. Everyone in the pro-passion courtyard was surprised. They still have a list. Let me see. Mingxuan lightly hooked the jade slip, stepped on the stool swaying left and right, and smiled. Is it the list of cultivation, the list of strength, and the list of appearance? Yi Qiao leaned over. First, you. Mingxuan winked at her. Although each person's beauty catches everyone's eyes, Mingxuan has a stronger visual impact on people. Basically, all the comprehension worlds have that kind of cool-toned appearance, except for Mingxuan. The boy has very bright eyebrows and eyes, which leads to a lot of female and male fans who like him. Zhu Yu was not interested in this list, so he snatched the jade slip back. So what the hell is the CP list? Mu Chongxi plunged in, revealing his furry head. I want to watch it too. Show me. Do you know how to take care of your junior brother? Yi Qiao patted the table and became irritable. Why are you robbing my jade slips? Don't you have any jade slips? Maybe the ones you snatched are more delicious. Zhou Exingyun was serious. Yi Qiao had nothing to say. The CP list is more lively, and there are all kinds of evil sects. When Zhu Yu saw someone pairing himself with the Changfeng sect, he shuddered and felt incredible. They really have nothing to do. It's better than spreading rumors about us. That can't be helped. There are only a few people in the comprehension world, and those who are ascending are ascending. The other powerful people are basically a group of old men. Only personal transmission can pull out rumors. You can't pull the elders of Wang to spread rumors, can you? Rumor what? A group of suzerains with a fairy tale image started to engage in sunset red, dust love. Who wants to see these? Mu Chongxi was not interested in any appearance list. He opened the list of cultivation bases, sort the same realm according to the breakthrough time. The first is Yi Qing'an. Then the second senior brother. The strength list is still Yi Qing'an. Mingxuan couldn't help complaining. Why? Let him take the first place. There are only a few rankings in total, and Yi Qing'an occupies 2 first places alone. Yi Qiao poured twice, her eyes turned slightly, and she smiled. Who is the number one beauty list on the female cultivator's side? It hasn't been judged yet. Mingxuan raised his eyebrows. You want to take the first place? Then wait a moment. I'll let our family's idle direct descendants vote. Yi Qiao stood up. No, I'm not interested in this. But we can send Yi Qing'an to the top of the beauty list in one go. She has been unhappy with Yi Qing'an for a long time, and Yi Qing'an also thinks that she is not very happy. After all, Yi Qing'an advocates cultivation and force, and he thinks that Yi Qiao's style is true wrong every time. If you want him to be convinced, you can't fight unless you are serious and don't use any talismans. However, if the two are not on the same level, there is no way to fight. Yi Qing'an's reputation as the number one in the righteous way is too loud, so Yi Qiao felt that it would be no problem to give him some other titles. She rubbed her chin. Think about it, when someone sees Yi Qing'an in the future, the first thing they say is, could it be that you are the legend, the number one beauty in the cultivation world, Yi Qing'an? Defiant or not, we have to be hunted down by Janjianzong. Mu Chongshi touched his arm, but it seems to be feasible. Although the little junior sister's photo stone was crushed before, someone should record it. Then find a picture of his women's clothing and throw it on it. Mingxuan immediately regained his energy. Come on, you vote for me, Yi Qing'an will debut tomorrow. They're determined to let Yi Qing'an win the first place in a short period of time. Facts have proved that people really can't be too idle and panic. With the help of a group of people from Chang Mingzong who fanned the flames and fueled the flames, Yi Qing'an's ranking really entered the top 10, so much so that it spread to the ears of sword-asking Zong. Yi Qing'an is going to fight for the number 1 beauty spot with a group of female cultivators. The sect master Wenjian was sipping tea, and spit out a mouthful of water in the next second. Is he crazy? It was originally a happy event for Chu Xingji to break through the nascent soul stage. He was in a happy mood not long before hearing such tongue-tiring news. The suzerain thought for a while and decided to ask Yi Qing'an to come over for a chat. No matter what, he asked about the sword. Zhong image cannot be affected. Looking at Chang Mingzong's original recruitment of disciples, no one went to know how important reputation is. However, the words still need to be more tactful. The sect master Wenjian had a serious face and a very gentle tone. Qing'an, what can I gain from going to the ghost world? Yi Qing'an frowned, not cautious enough. It's still not strong enough. Otherwise, I wouldn't need to think so much. He hated thinking about things before and after. Do you know why the Ghost King Tower disappeared? Yi Qing'an shook his head. I don't know. But maybe it has something to do with Yi Qiao. Yi Qing'an lowered his eyes and thought for a moment, then said in a calm tone, try her for a chance, she likes to take advantage of loopholes. She has learned a lot. The master of Janjian sect felt a little envious. If you can drill it, it's fine. The corners of Yi Qing'an's lips drooped, and he was a little displeased to hear his master's envious tone. The boy's face was cold and expressionless. Sooner or later, wait for her to be in the nascent soul stage, and fight with her. Can't touch her yet. Otherwise, the victory will be invincible. There is also Zhou Xingyun. Yi Qing'an frowned. His domain, if you guessed correctly, is called nothingness, or return to nothing. The moment he stepped into the world, it seemed as if the world did not exist, even his own existence. Can't feel it. Apart from these two people, there is also Qin Huai of Cheng Fengong. They are all difficult to deal with, and Yi Qing'an can feel the pressure. He pursed his lips. The disciple will work hard to live up to the sect's expectations. The head of the sword-seeking sect nodded repeatedly. You and Xiao Chu are both in the nascent soul stage. Strive to be more righteous and improve your cultivation. Don't be fooled by foreign things. I still have some small hobbies. He coughed twice, looked at the best disciple, and said in a tactful tone, you can restrain yourself as much as possible, or, for the sake of our image of asking sword sect, if you really can't help it, you can wear it by yourself in private. Don't wear women's clothing in public. Too much damage to their image of the number 1 sword sect who asked about sword sect. Yi Qing'an always felt that the master was implying something. He frowned, could only respond, and walked away. Yes. The disciple understands. Ellipsis. Mingxuan, Su Juo, and Miao Miao, all three of them are at the peak of Jindan after returning, only one step away from the nascent soul stage. Yi Qiao remained silent, one step behind the others, 2 realms short of the nascent soul stage. She is not in a hurry. Anyway, if she is not going to save the world, it is useless to be anxious. It is better to calm down and make alchemy. For several days in a row, the fragrance of durian wafted in the yard. Quickly throw away your elixir. Don't care about our lives, Yi Qiao. They've all become fearless recently. Yi Qiao saw that they had nothing to do, so she took a piece of paper and taught them how to play a small game of modern entertainment. and it turned out that she was making alchemy, and these people played well. Ming Xuan took the villain and announced the rules on the paper, and then said, "You took Yi Qiao's elixir, and you were stunned for 3 seconds. Take 3 steps back. Hurry up. Zhu Yu. How can you say that about the little junior sister's elixir?" Okay. Ming Xuan was reluctant to change it. "Your elder brother hanged himself for 3 seconds. Is that enough?" Rewind. Zhou Exingyun was also very depressed. "I didn't scare anyone to death when I hanged myself." Yi Qiao is not easy to be influenced by the external environment. They're making trouble with them. She is still researching how to refine multiple medicines at one time and reduce the failure rate. Heavenly Dao is very satisfied with her difficult method of alchemy these days. When you are happy, you will be rewarded with 2 blessings. Later, her cultivation also slowly increased, but the range was too small. Zhou Exingyun thought for a few seconds. Bottleneck period. Yi Qiao rubbed her swollen temples. "I don't know." The pill was knocked out, and the spirit fruit was also eaten. The spiritual roots don't seem to need too much watering at the moment. If it is really a bottleneck period, then there is no need to continue practicing. Yi Qiao stopped making alchemy, and they finally stopped playing this kind of game, but chatted about business. After summarizing their experience in the lower ghost world, Ming Xuan roughly described their experiences in other layers. It's no wonder that Yi Qingyan was so embarrassed that he wanted to seek an explanation from the higher-ups in the cultivation world. No one thought that the Ghost King Tower was actually a domain-shaped spiritual weapon. At least it's not written in the information given. If it wasn't for the fact that Fexianjian was willing to transform into Yi Qiao to help him when he happened to meet Yi Qiao, then Chu Exingji would really be dying. Yi Qiao shook the flying immortal sword. The flying immortal sword has been wilted since that short-lived transformation. After all, the flying immortal sword is not in the sword cave, and when the aura is the strongest when it is transformed into a shape day and night. It has a great impact when it is forced out. Take a good look at her. Mu Chongxi curled her lips. It's no wonder Yi Qingyan wants to go to the top management. If he's close to being killed by misinformation when he's out of touch, ask him what he says. Which sect released the wrong news this time? Yi Qiao really couldn't figure it out. Even if they were training him, they couldn't make such a mistake. Zhu Yu. Yue Kingzong. TSK. Ming Xuan mocked. If there was substance, it's them again. But if they are deliberately concealing it, why don't they even tell the biography of their own clan? Seeing that Song Hansheng and the others seemed to be completely ignorant, they shouldn't be so cruel that they even wanted to get rid of their personal transmission. Zhu Yu folded his hands, propped his chin, and speculated reasonably. Yue Kingzong's information network is the most comprehensive. Could it be that the Ghost King Tower hides the news so well that even Yue Kingzong was concealed? Yi Qiao heard the words and pinched the tower spirit in the sea of consciousness, causing the other party to scream, "It's not me, it's not me." The villain Yi Qiao pinched me again. HMPH. Obviously, as long as you send someone in to check it out, you'll know something's wrong with the tower, but it's not true. Yi Qiao also felt that this pagoda spirit would not be so unscrupulous in the ghost world if it was really going to hide, and it was clearly concealed on purpose to let them give it away for nothing. As for who died, then it depends. The more he thought about it, the more upset he became. Yi Qiao asked, "Who is the high-ranking elder of Yue Kingzong who is responsible for providing information?" There are too many elders in each sect. As far as the Changming sect is concerned, there are 7 or 8 elders. The only ones she is most familiar with are Elder Zhao and Elder Duan. The others are just met. Zhu Yu blinked. 7th elder. Mu Chongxi happily turned over and jumped down, getting what Yi Qiao meant. Then let's meet him. Ellipsis. Chevron _ left